This world is filled with ghosts, and they love only one thing more than anything else in the world: to eat human meat. But this guy just happened to get here. Previously, he had always been an ordinary lazy man, who from time to time fell into the hands of all sorts of hooligans. This was his daily life within the walls of the school. However, by a happy coincidence, he accidentally logged into the system, and since then everything has changed. He wanted to make not only people realize everything, but also ghosts too, even though they wanted to kill him. Even he decided to beat the system, and now he was content with the fruits of his labors. The ghosts began to obey him. Sunlight penetrated into the building through the windows, illuminating the walls of the corridor. Third year of high school, second grade. Someone's voice was heard outside the door, announcing that soon they will pass a test that will allow them to enter the realm of ghosts, and because of this, fear is felt. A boy in the classroom was sitting at the same desk with a classmate, telling her that, according to rumors, at the last test, 3 students were strangled by ghosts in the realm of ghosts. The girl, clearly frightened by her interlocutor and his words, was shaking a little with fear, and asked him to stop talking about it. Suddenly, the teacher who was standing in front of the whole class spoke. She urged the children to calm down, waiting for absolute silence in the classroom, and then began to calm them down. They, according to her, should not have worried, because if they follow all the rules studied earlier, they will cope with everything. And it's okay with nothing would happen to them, everything would be fine, she was sure of that. At this time, one of the students was sleeping sweetly with his head on his card. He didn't seem particularly interested in what was happening in this room. Suddenly his eyes flew open. He jumped up from his chair and raised his hands in delight, shouting that he had committed as many as 5 murders. This behavior of his attracted the attention of the other guys, and the teacher, too. They, amazed, turned in his direction. The kid repeated his words again, 5 murders. He seemed happy. It was not clear to others if this guy was going to go to the realm of ghosts at all, or if he would just continue playing his games. Was he really not at all afraid of what awaited them all? From their mouths, even insults were thrown at him. The boy was simply considered a complete idiot, and he stood silently in perplexity. The guy seemed to be coming to his senses and realizing what had happened. He was standing with the phone in his hand and scratching the back of his head, his eyes bulging in surprise. He was thinking that he had just killed 5 monsters, and after that he suddenly found himself here, in this class and among these guys. At the same moment, a sharp pain pierced the student's head. He closed his eyes and clenched his teeth, uttering only a soft moan, his face distorted. This is a world where hundreds of ghosts are rampant, and they are gradually taking over the cities, one by one. In such conditions, the possibilities of human survival are getting smaller and smaller every time, more hopeless. And in order to keep some part of the world behind them and ensure the safety of humanity, people have created such a specialty as Ghost Master. Like the Imperial Beasts, people signed contracts with ghosts and fought, simultaneously summoning them in battle to fight for them. They needed to be able to fight back against the ghosts that had gotten out of control, and were now enjoying killing innocent people. Thus, each school at the end of the school year had to conduct a Ghost Master test, an exam. Now one thing has come to the kid. It turns out that he just suddenly teleported. He was surprised by this fact, but still sat down in his seat and, driving away this stupid thought, decided to play the game again, so he stared at his phone. The teacher was, to put it mildly, dissatisfied with this behavior of the student. She made a remark to the young gambler, because very soon there will be a test in the realm of ghosts, and he is still playing his games and having fun. She asked if this student had refreshed all the knowledge he had gained, and decided to test him with an important question. How, in his opinion, should a ghost be treated? At this moment, the student received a notification from the system, which congratulated the host on the successful teleportation. In the next message there was a description of the destruction system. The owner needs to allow people or ghosts to break through his defenses so that he can get points for this. Thanks to the defense breakpoints, it will be possible to conclude contracts with ghosts for an indefinite period. The system suggested that the owner try to force the teacher to violate his protection, in which case he will be able to bind the system. The student looked at the messages in surprise, delving into their essence. When the guy realized what was going on, his jaw dropped in surprise. How could this be happening to him? In the memory of every person, at the age of 5, the upper limit of the contract awakens, in which case you can sign a contract with a ghost for just 1 point. The 0 limit is impossible to fight with ghosts, because they are ordinary people. Those with the second limit can contract with 2 ghosts, and this is considered the average of a Ghost Master. The third limit can only be reached by geniuses, therefore it is much more difficult to meet a person with the third limit They are rare. However, this kid, a simple student, the system allows you to infinitely increase contacts. In other words, he can easily sign contracts with 100 million ghosts. The guy got up from his seat and turned to the teacher, sarcastically replying that if the ghost was hot, then you could pull out the camera and shoot an erotic video with him. There was laughter in the classroom after these words, and comments followed about the fact that this guy, it turns out, will broadcast live with ghosts. Someone thought his answer was just brilliant. The neighbor of this joker, pointing at him with his finger, said that he had no doubt at all that he was sitting next to a man who, to be honest, is not as bad as it might seem. The teacher told everyone to calm down right away. She did not like this answer of the student. She began to lose her temper, so she asked him the following question: what to do with a ghost struck by an electric shock? Still smiling, the student, without hesitation for a long time, replied that in this case it can be used as a charger when the battery on the phone is discharged. Classmates laughed, saying that it was very smart, and decided that you can count on this guy when it comes to energy issues. The teacher asked again what to do if a ghost girl in red came across. The student thought about it, what to do with the ghost girl. In his opinion, it all depends on the appearance. His expression changed, a blush and a playful smile appeared, and a picture of a ghost pressed against the wall popped up in his head. He said a few words about it and giggled. The classroom became noisy again from the laughter of the guys caused by the words of this guy. The teacher finally couldn't stand it and slammed her hand on the table, after which she told this naughty student, whose name is Lin Mo, to get out, that is, to step into the back of the classroom and stand there. Lin Mo just smiled, as if expecting this. He obediently complied with the teacher's request. A message has arrived from the system notifying that a breach in the emotion management system has been discovered, because the system has been successfully linked. Now the system was congratulating Lin Mo on receiving the beginner's prize set. He had acquired the defense contract skill, the effect of which was that when the ghost's defense drops by 99%, the host can forcibly sign a contract with him, regardless of the ghost's desire. Lin Mo thought this system was simply amazing. Initially his limit was 0.5. In this regard, he could only sign a contract with half of the ghost. Now he has 2 chances to sign a contract. It was amazing. The student involuntarily wondered if he was the main character. Meanwhile, the teacher called the class to silence and said that the assessment is an important indicator of the results of the general exam. According to her, after the guys deal with the ghost of rank A, they can safely apply for admission to the university. Rank B is the 2nd degree, C is the 3rd degree, and D is a chance to enter the university. The woman also told the students that they should not grab the stars from heaven. If they choose a rank ghost and cannot resist him, then they will immediately lose the opportunity to get the right to apply to an educational institution. After all these eloquent words, the teacher turned to Lin Mo and said that he could finally sit back in his seat, recommending that he should definitely choose Area D, since his knowledge and skills are too weak and they are not enough to successfully cope with this exam. In other words, he had to choose what would be the easiest. The guy agreed. Time went on. The students had to use their fingerprint to unlock the desktop, and then choose the ghost qualification. There were 4 possible locations in front of the students. Rank A is a hospital of fear, Rank B is a tangled forest, Rank C is a nightmarish subway station, and the last rank, the simplest, is Rank D, Bloody Street. Lin Mo's neighbor hugged him and offered to choose the D qualification together with him in order to sign a contract with a weak ghost. That is, choose the easiest way and quietly enter the university without unnecessary worries, problems, and worries. However, Mo refused, because it seemed to him that the ghosts of Rank D were too weak even for him. This answer did not satisfy his interlocutor. He immediately changed his face and asked Lin Mo to stop behaving like that, because his skills are not so good. The guy did not hesitate for a long time. His finger touched the screen. The choice fell on the grade test, the most difficult level. After that, the dive activation began. Lin Mo's neighbor was shocked by his choice in the end and decided that he had completely gone off the rails. The teacher quickly intervened and told the student that he was the last in theoretical knowledge and skills, because if he got in the way of a rank assign, he would certainly be waiting for only death, without options. However, it was already too late to change something, and it was already impossible to reason with the young man. The choice could not be changed. The download was successfully completed and teleportation began. Lin Mo just smiled one last time, and then disappeared, leaving the whole class in disbelief. Why did he make such a choice? Has he really gone mad? The place of the test, which he got to as a result of teleportation, looked really quite creepy. The hospital was fenced off, crows were flying around. Almost immediately, several people teleported to this place and now found themselves in front of the gates of a large building. Lin Mo noticed the other arrivals. There were 5 of them. He himself was the 6th. The guy thought that, it seems, he is not the only one who chose this zone. All these guys made the same choice as himself. Suddenly, a ghost appeared next to the 2 guys, who greeted them in a friendly way at the Hospital of Fear. The girl with long black hair, who was standing and felt a little creepy because of the oppressive atmosphere prevailing here, was scared and clung to her companion, instantly recoiling from the ghost that appeared so unexpectedly in front of them. Lin Mo frowned at the one who had scared everyone so much and wondered what kind of paper man he was. The ghost hovered right over the gate. He immediately calmed the guys so that they would not worry ahead of time, because he was just their examiner. To begin with, he decided to briefly tell the students about the place where they are now. Now everyone has learned that this is the city of Kanglin, and the building in front of them is the former city hospital. One of the girls, hearing these words, covered her mouth with her hand in surprise, because, according to rumors, ghosts once invaded this city, and now it is considered extinct. There are no more people here, only ghosts. It is also said that 2 or even 3 imperial regiments fell here, so it was unclear why it was necessary to organize this place as an examination arena at all. Isn't it too dangerous? The ghost again asked the guys who stood opposite and listened attentively to him not to worry, because, according to him, absolutely everything is under control here, especially since this hospital was restricted by the security service, which is why ghosts from outside are simply not able to get here. After that, the guys learned from the examiner about their assignment, which seemed very simple to the ghost, smiling with all his teeth. They just had to live in this place for 1 day and sign a contract with 1 ghost. Nothing complicated. For safety reasons, each of the students was given a teleportation talisman. The ghost explained that they were needed in order to teleport back in case of mortal danger. It would only be necessary to tear the talisman. After that, they would be instantly teleported. In addition, if the guys can make a contract with a ghost or kill him, they will receive a green ghost bead, the cost of which is 100,000. The paper man asked if the guys had any more questions for him, but there were none. From that moment, the exam began, which the ghost announced now, still smiling broadly. Behind him was the hospital building, the site for the exam. The wind rose, the leaves swirled in a whirlwind. The ghost rose high into the air. Now the way to the hospital was open to the guys. They followed forward. The boy with glasses was looking at the picture in front of him and could not hide his surprise when Lin Mo's voice suddenly attracted everyone's attention. He went ahead, arguing that there might be a beautiful nurse somewhere in the hospital. One of the girls, Lily, followed. She couldn't let this guy get ahead of them. The others followed Lily, including the guy who intended to be her protector. Lin Mo opened the door and went inside. There were bloodstains everywhere, both on the floor and on the walls. Chaos reigned around. The guys looked around. Mo turned the corner and stared at something. Afterward, he seemed scared that his classmates noticed, which is why they started asking how he was and if there was a ghost there. The frightened boy's face was distorted with horror. He began to speak, stuttering, and reported that there were more than 50 ghosts here, and then shouted that things were really bad and he urgently needed to escape from here. The guys rushed away, screaming in fear and calling for help. Lin Mo raced after them. One of the girls was screaming that she didn't want to die here. Soon everyone stopped. They were tired and now they were trying to catch their breath. Someone was sitting on the table, and someone was sitting on the floor. Suddenly, a question was asked about whether Lin Mo had come out. However, he was not among them. The bespectacled kid said Mo deserved to be eaten by a ghost. Loud and shrill laughter rang out. The guys' faces changed. They saw a classmate who was looking at them from the hospital. Pleased with himself, the guy reminded them of the examiner's words. There are no more than 20 ghosts in the hospital, so how could they believe his words? He clapped his hands. All this caused indignation among the guys, and it was like Lin Mo decided to scare them off and deal with the ghosts alone. A notification came from the system notifying that the host had received 100 points of destruction. Lin Mo turned to the boy with glasses, asking if such a mouse could do something. He switched to shouting, wondering if the guy knows the girl who came here with them. Song Lily is the most talented beauty, whose upper limit of awakening is 3, which is 10 times more than Lin Mo. Does this guy dare to scare them at all? Now it's their turn. These words did not cause any reaction from the student. He just looked indifferently and scratched his ear. Lily, crossing her arms over her chest and lifting her head, said that resources should be directed to more useful people. The guys around her were admiring her now. Lin Mo said that he would probably start, turned around and left, leaving the others to look at his retreating back. It seemed to him that in this short period of time he would be able to get quite a lot of points from his classmates. Now the guy was standing in front of one of the offices. The system completed the check and found that in the ophthalmology department half of the ghosts of the average level. He stood in the doorway with an intimidating smile and called the ghosts inferior. Lin Mo wanted to take a step, but something else caught his attention. His classmates appeared in the corridor of the hospital. They told him to stop and asked if he was really going to go there. A boy with glasses, pointing with his finger, told him to get out of the way. On the face, Lin Mo showed a sly smile. He walked away and told the guys that they could go first if they wanted to. Smiling sweetly, he gave way to them. The guys did not hesitate. Now Lin Mo was standing behind him. A kid with glasses was looking at him with a grin. Suddenly Lily saw a huge sparkling red eye on the ceiling. She immediately wondered what it was. Lin Mo was calm, being the furthest away from potential danger. His classmates were scared because of what they saw and did not take their eyes off the monster on the ceiling. Their bodies began to tremble. Mo peeked from behind the wall. He concluded that there was probably something wrong. Fortunately, he deliberately did not go first, giving in to the guys, otherwise he would have suffered the most. Now the guy was wondering if his classmates would just run away from there. He looked in their direction again. Lily was coming closer to him. Her body was still holding, and her face was distorted by a grimace of horror. The girl went outside the office and was now in the corridor. Suddenly blood came out of her mouth. She covered her lips with her hand. Lin Mo seemed to ask worriedly what was the matter. The girl explained, "There is a bloody eye hanging on the ceiling, which is capable of creating illusions. She would not have been able to get out if she had not bitten her tongue." The guy thought about it. It looks like pain can destroy illusions. He didn't know that. Two other classmates were crawling on the floor closer to their comrades. Their situation seemed terrible. This demon as if from a terrible nightmare. The boy with glasses blamed Lin Mo for everything, because he was the one who brought them here, but the answer came immediately, because Mo believed that it was their problems that did not concern him. The guys were already in the corridor. They also managed to get out of the demon's trap and destroy the illusions. Lily looked at Mo with a displeased face. She said that he stayed here, safe, only thanks to them. If a scumbag like him had entered first, nothing would have been left of him. Lin Mo got to his feet and now towered over the guys who were sitting on the floor. He did not hesitate to say that he deliberately missed them first to find out everything, and now he has an advantage. What I heard angered the others. It was unbearable. The system notified that the owner was awarded 30 points of destruction. The guys decided to leave here and go to another place. The boy with glasses helped Lily up, and she said she didn't want to be here next to this scumbag. Lin Mo threw only one word in their address: dogs. The guys were leaving, and he decided to go into the office where the ghost was. Judging by the reaction of his classmates, he will not fall under the illusion if he does not look at the demon. Mo decided to do something. He groped for a switch on the wall. A fan turned on the ceiling, on which the ghost was sitting. This huge eye started spinning along with the fan and started demanding that Mo turn it off immediately. The guy did not react, because the demon again asked him to turn it off, deciding that this brat simply could not hear him. The system notified that the owner was awarded 20 points of destruction. Lin Mo saw the result and expected that the ghost was about to fall. He smiled, raising his head to the ceiling. The ghost started talking again. He wanted to threaten that he would do something if Lin Mo didn't turn off the fan. After the check was completed, it became clear that the ghost's life was spent by 88%. 11 remained. The guy told the demon that he would give up the ghost very soon, and offered him to make a deal. He, Lin Mo, turns off the fan, and the ghost signs a contract with him. This arrangement was not to the ghost's liking. How dare this kid put conditions on him? Is he really not afraid of him at all? However, it was clear that if he did not agree, he would lose his life. Progress in overcoming the defense was stuck at 88%. It seems that Mo needed to come up with something new. The ghost asked the boy to turn off the fan first. Soon Mo did so now he expected that a contract would be signed with him, as they had agreed. The ghost complained that his eye was completely dry, so he asked to give him eye drops that are in the closet. The guy went to the closet and opened it. Bloody Eye assured that he would sign everything right after he received eye drops. Lin Mo replied with an unkind smile that there was no problem. He took one bottle in his hands, but reached for another one. Lin Mo threw the file to the ghost, telling him to quickly sort out his drops, since he already needed to conclude a contract. Before that, he deleted the 502 mark. The ghost chuckled and smiled. Catching the drops, he thanked the young man. He had already begun to bury the drops, hoping to restore his strength, but after he realized that something was wrong. But it was too late. He used the remedy, and because of this his eyes did not open, and the ghost screamed. Lin Mo just smiled. He came closer to the interlocutor and, spreading his hands, suggested that, probably, the expiration date of the drops had already expired. Blood Eye screamed loudly. Barely opening his eyes, he called the guy a scumbag and threatened to kill him. Lin Mo received 50 points of destruction, and the ghost's defense fell by 99%, so there was the possibility of a forced contract. Now the student decided to act. He connected 2 fingers. A glow appeared. He addressed the ghost, calling him Lady Blood Eye, and asked if he wanted to sign a contract with Mr. Mo. The eye screamed, informing him that he was actually male, and also refusing to conclude a contract. He did not want to. However, the process started anyway. The contract was concluded. 10%, 20%. Blood Eye suddenly said that he would have agreed without it. Finally, the contract was concluded. On the ceiling where the ghost lived, he suddenly began to transform somehow. Lin Mo watched with fascination when red blood streaks were directed in his direction. This ghost moved into a young man. He approached directly to his eye. The transformation was completed. The student stood in front of the mirror, studying his reflection. He looked at his red-changed eye and said that now he was like Kakashi. He thought it looked cool. Without moving away from the reflecting object, Mo wondered if his appearance would change with each new contract. The system reported that after a short rest, the ghosts with whom the contract was concluded can be called to battle. Inferior ghosts merge with the body and strengthen their attributes. They can fight alone. Lin Mo smiled when he became aware of the ETP information. The discontented blood eye that merged with his body was full of indignation. He scolded the young man and talked about how he got him. The guy just laughed. He was pleased with the state of affairs. From now on, this ghost will follow him. And now I would like to see what attributes he has. The level of the blood eye, an inferior ghost, was average. The value of the ghost is 100. Loyalty is 3%. The skills were not activated. Lin Mo turned to the ghost, remarking to him that his loyalty was almost at 0. Bloody Eye explained this by saying that he does not feel a drop of loyalty to the owner, because a contract was forcibly concluded with him. He wanted to be free. After these words, the ghost's loyalty dropped by 2% and was now only 1%. 200 points of destruction could be exchanged for 1 ghost skill. The system invited the guy to do it and requested confirmation. Lin Mo decided to agree to see if it would be possible to increase the ghost's loyalty by activating the skill. The exchange was successful. As a result, the skill The Art of the Disciple, the illusion of bloody hell, was obtained. At the first level, this skill can be used only by looking at the enemy. Because of this, he will begin to plunge into the illusion of a bloody hell. It also causes incessant blood loss. The skill consumes 50 units of energy, and its restart is 60 seconds. The note said that the effect lasts 30 seconds if the opponent is a ghost or a person of the same level, and 10 seconds if the opponent's level is higher. The ghost was surprised that the guy activated the skill so quickly. He promised that this brat would still get it from him. However, Blood Eye's loyalty still increased by 9% and was now 10. This result was quite satisfactory to Lin Mo. The sky over the hospital was overcast and gloomy. Lin Mo walked out of the ophthalmology department and looked around. At the end of the corridor, he saw 2 silhouettes. The young man could not have imagined that after merging with a ghost, his visual abilities would improve significantly. He smiled, thinking that it was time to earn. The girl hit the green monster with sparkling eyes. He flew to the side, breaking the glass in his path. Lily was in the company of other guys. She was in a panic, wondering why these ghouls were chasing them. There were too many such ghouls. The guys realized that they would not be able to get through them, so they rushed to run. One of the guys asked why they shouldn't use the talisman to teleport to a safe place. In his opinion, this option is much better than being absorbed by a ghost. The bespectacled man had another suggestion. You can bring the ghost to the 2nd floor, where Lin Mo is. There the ghost will attack the boy, and they themselves will remain unharmed. Another guy, hesitating, asked if it was even possible to do this and whether it would look like they had committed premeditated murder. The guys ran around the corner and were already climbing the stairs. The boy with glasses said that Lin Mo also has a teleportation talisman, so he won't die. In addition, in his opinion, if their classmate takes the blow on himself, it can be considered a contribution to the development of mankind. Seeing the guys going up to the 2nd floor, Lin Mo asked if they were running away again. Lily's gaze was stern. She didn't say anything, but the bespectacled one said that Lin Mo should die. The second guy reminded him that he could use the teleportation talisman at any time. Mo didn't understand what kind of jokes they were, and then he saw the ghosts that came after his comrades, so he immediately realized that they decided to frame him. However, the young man was not upset. He thought that now was the right time. He was given a good chance to try out new skills. Lily and two guys were watching a classmate who didn't even move. They wondered why he wasn't running away, but just standing there. He must be scared to death and now he doesn't know what to do. The ghosts jumped towards the victim, but Lin Mo looked at them using the skill art of the disciple, the illusion of bloody hell. The ghosts collapsed to the ground. The young man had a saw in his hands. He approached the opponents and praised the effect of the skill. How good, because these ghosts can't even move. Now it was up to him. Skillfully handling the saw, Lin Mo dealt with some ghosts. He had 25 seconds left, which, in his opinion, should have been enough to deal with the rest. Classmates were stunned. They watched what was happening, saw how Mo's eye turned red, like a ghost in the ophthalmology room. In fact, this skill was quite rare. Lily was indignant. It was they who found this ghost. But the skill ended up with another one. This medium-level ghost turned out to be very strong. He took it out alone. Lin Mo received 40 points of destruction and at first did not understand where the points came from. But everything was as obvious as possible. It was the guys who brought the ghosts here. For this, he, looking in their direction and smiling, thanked them. For 5 kills, the young man received 5 ghost balls, which were very good. His face shone when he looked at the reward. The guy calmly said that he would not forgive his classmates if he found out that they would want to hurt him again. At that moment, the smile disappeared from his face. Now his expression seemed terrifying and serious. The guys were seriously scared. The system credited the owner with another 40 points of destruction. Lin Mo only laughed when he realized that his classmates had bought into his words. Lin Mo was walking down the corridor with a bloody eye on his shoulder. He was telling his ally that these murders were amazing. The ghosts that met them on the way, in a panic, fled to the sides so as not to repeat the fate of the dead. Blood Eye said that his strong abilities were the reason for everything. It would be difficult for other ghosts to cope with 5 enemies at once. Lin Mo smiled looking at his pet. He stated that, regardless of the strength of the ghost, the main thing is his contract. Most people, according to him, would not have the courage to just look at the ghosts, let alone fight with them. He considered it his merit, and the ghost was furious because of such bragging. There were skeletons in the corridor in front of them, which did not go unnoticed by these two. Lin Mo noticed the watch on his wrist. He came closer, took off the gold jewelry, staring at it admiringly. The young man decided to accept this watch as a gift, because they are unlikely to be useful to a dead man now. The guy wondered if there was a lot of money left in this hospital. Coughing, he entered the office and, seeing the safe, looked at it greedily, sticking out his tongue and hoping that there was something to profit from. Lin Mo touched the handle of the safe and pulled it towards him. The door began to open, but what was inside was disappointing. 2 coins and a spider web. Someone must have stolen money from here before him. They beat him to it. It was a blow for the guy. An examiner hovered over the hospital. He watched how the test was going. Now the paperman wondered what Lin Mo was doing here, taking an exam or looking for a way to get rich. The ghost conducted the exam many times, with many people, but he met such a frame for the first time. Lin Mo walked on. He had a bag with a small amount of extracted wealth. The system completed the check and found a high-level ghost. From the operating room, where the young man was peeking, there was a glow from a high-level ghost. The man's gaze was fixed on the target. It was a beautiful girl. She was sitting with her eyes closed and did not see the guest. The bloody eye blurted out that the girth under the girl's chest is 56, the girth of the chest is 26. And the cup is F. Both watched without taking their eyes off. Lin Mo was surprised at such an accurate analysis of the data, and his pet ghost asked if the contractor was thinking about the same thing as he was. The ghost's loyalty suddenly increased by 5%, and now the current value was 15%. Lin Mo almost choked. What just happened? Is it really only because of a similar taste that loyalty has increased? The ghost girl was very sensitive. She suddenly frowned, as if sensing something, and turned towards the door, but 2 managed to hide. Lin Mo wondered what was wrong with this big-breasted beauty and whether she was dangerous. Bloody Eye said that she was definitely dangerous. Had the young man seen her zither? The girl is constantly playing some kind of melody. Lin Mo thought about it, and then said that it didn't matter, and offered to immerse the girl in an illusion. However, it wasn't that simple. Blood Eye said it was useless, because he was weaker than her. Lin Mo looked into the office, looked at the girl, and suddenly it dawned on him, she is blind. The illusion of bloody hell is useless with her. Besides, she has a high level, so she won't give up just like that. But the guy still wasn't going to give up. He was going to break through the defense at all costs, and sign another contract. This time with a ghost girl. Chapter 8. Lin Mo took the white robe that hung on the wall hanger and immediately put it on himself. The bloody eye warned the contractor not to die. If they provoke this ghost, they will definitely say goodbye to their lives. However, the young man did not even seem to worry about this. He assumed that this girl might not be so bad. Maybe she was a darling. Mo had taken all the necessary equipment and was now ready for the meeting. He opened the door, going inside. The girl was sitting at her instrument, and as soon as someone came to her, she immediately felt it, so she loudly asked who dared to do it. Her fingers immediately ran over the strings, creating a deafening melody, because of which Lin Mo covered his ears with his hands and squeezed his eyes shut. The guy fell to his knees because of the force that was acting on him. He was covering his ear with one hand, and the other reached out towards the girl, as if intending to stop her. Mo lied that he was a doctor, asked her to stop, because he was just going to examine her. The girl immediately stopped and asked if it was true. Lin Mo continued to insist on his own. He really is a doctor. After these words, the ghost's face became gloomy, and then the question hung in the air. Where did all the doctors in this hospital go? She had been waiting for them for too long. The girl asked if it was possible to perform the operation right now. The student said that there would be no problems with this. Of course, he would perform the operation, and therefore the girl should lie down on the couch. The guy was touching the couch while the ghost was standing behind him. When the girl sat down at the place indicated to her, Lin Mo said that an injection was needed and asked if she was ready for it. Smiling, the beauty agreed to this. The student stared a little at the forms of his patient. Her breasts were really huge. The guy's cheeks immediately flushed with embarrassment. He was holding a syringe in his hands, and then his expression changed. As it seemed to him, this girl does not realize that she is dead yet. Wasn't it too cruel of him to deceive her? However, thoughts about this were immediately driven away, because it is necessary to bring the matter to the very end so that he could survive. If something went wrong, he would certainly part with his life, and this outcome was the least desirable. The hand with the syringe marked the target. Lin Mo stuck the needle. The girl winced from the pain and seemed to get a little angry. The guy kindly asked if she was in pain, but she, as a sweet and obedient patient, quickly calmed down and with a smile made it clear that everything was fine. It didn't hurt at all. The doctor replied that it was wonderful. He allegedly did not get into the vein, so it was necessary to inject him again. He held her hand in his and stuck the syringe in again, and then repeated it several more times, while with feigned surprise asking what was wrong with her veins. Her skin, according to him, was too smooth. The girl was already starting to get angry. The would-be doctor again failed. He offered to try again, after which he again asked with displeasure what was going on. Lin Mo played the role of a bewildered doctor. He poked the needle into the girl's hand again and again, each time in a different area of skin. At some point, the ghost's patience came to an end. Her hand stopped the hand with the syringe and did not allow the needle to be inserted again. The girl howled piteously, asking if she was being treated this way on purpose. How could a doctor allow himself to do this to his patient? The system reported that Lin Mo had received 40 points of destruction. The protection of the ghost was now 50%. 49% remained before the conclusion of the compulsory contract. Mildly apologizing, Mo scratched his head. He said he needed to try again. The guy continued to give injections, and at this time too, a guy and a girl were spying on his actions. They saw that Lin Mo was performing an operation on a ghost, and they were at a loss. Is he really so brave? Since he went to such a thing, is he not afraid at all? The girl remembered how the teacher told them that you can't show your fear to a ghost. If they come face to face with a ghost, then the chances of survival will not only increase, but it will also be possible to conclude a contract with a ghost, for which they are here. The girl looked at her companion and asked if Lin Mo had really reached such a level of skill. The guys decided to take an example from their classmate, and went in search of ghosts with whom they could sign a contract. All this time, the examiner was watching what was happening. He believed that Lin Mo's behavior, compared to other students taking the exam, could be considered excellent. The girl finally removed her hand from the doctor's hand, deciding not to bother him anymore. She sighed and asked to proceed with the operation. The young man agreed, and then asked what kind of operation she wanted to perform. Was it really a sex change? The patient complained that this was not the case. She had breast cancer, so she needed to have her breasts removed to ease the burden of her back. Lin Mo picked up the saw with which he had previously killed ghosts, and started it, saying that the chest looks beautiful, so it's a pity to remove it. His next question is, how much to delete? The patient immediately replied that half needed to be removed. The doctor asked if it was the right or the left, and this really drove the girl out of herself. Is this guy sick or something? where has it been seen that the operation was performed only on one breast? Of course, you need to delete both. Lin Mo received 40 points of destruction, and the ghost's defense dropped by 60%. The guy immediately smiled. The girl's reaction aroused his interest. She gets angry, and he gets points of destruction. Therefore, the young man decided to act in the same spirit, to ask stupid questions. This time he, bringing the saw close to the girl's ear, because of which she covered her ears, asked which side to remove, from below or from above, to remove the front or back. The girl said that the front will not be very. Lin Mo got 40 points of destruction again, and the defense dropped by 70%. Sitting on the couch next to the patient, the guy asked about the scars. Should I make them bigger or smaller? Is it painful to perform the operation or not? He said that there was no painkiller, because the pain should be simply unbearable. Lin Mo got another 40 points of destruction, and the defense dropped by 80%. The girl was lying down. Her teeth were clenched with anger. It seemed that she could no longer stand it. But the doctor continued, "It's difficult to remove half of the breast. Maybe remove it completely." According to him, liposuction surgery was recently performed in this hospital, at the request of the girl. He can also perform it at the same time, and the discount will be guaranteed. Finally, the ghost girl couldn't stand it. Her eyes opened wide. Her mouth opened in a loud scream. She told the guy to shut up. Did he really want to die? The girl immediately appeared in the air with her instrument. Her hair was developing in different directions. A melody began to play. The defense dropped by 99%. It was possible to conclude a contract. Lin Mo turned to his sister with a smile, saying that it was not worth doing this, because they had not finished yet. She viciously replied that it didn't matter. She intended to kill this annoying boy. He said that she would not succeed. He told her to sign a contract. According to him, this lady should have signed a contract with him, Lin Mo. He asked to respect and love him, in health and illness, in wealth and in poverty. The girl looked dumbfounded. She still did not understand what was going on and what was happening here now. The young man continued. He asked if the lady was ready to serve him in good and bad times. The girl's scream rang out again. The ghost asked what Lin Mo was carrying. She played her instrument again, but her consent was not required for the conclusion of the contract. Since it was compulsory, the contract was concluded. 10%, 20%. Finally, the contract was concluded. The surprised girl asked to wait and explain what happened, because she did not agree to it. At the same moment, it began to be sucked into the host's body and on his hand. When the fusion successfully came to an end, there was a small mark in the form of the number 3. Looking at the mark, Lin Mo concluded that, apparently, merging with ghosts will always be reflected in different ways. To summon a ghost, you will only need to touch this mark. The guy already had 2 contracts. The system threw 2 more opportunities for conclusion. Mo was pleased with himself, and Bloody Eye was pleased with his new company. He smiled maliciously. The ghost girl called the student a deceiver and demanded that he immediately let her go. However, Lin Mo did not think about it. Now the girl is attached to him, and she should put up with it. Besides, now she does not need to worry about her sore chest, because he will help her. The beauty was still dissatisfied. She called the guy a scoundrel. Bloody Eye agreed. Sucking up, called their contractor a shameless brat, but told the girl not to get angry like that. It's time to review the characteristics of the new ghost. The big-chested ghost was of a high level. The ghost's points were 200, loyalty was 20%, skills were not activated. Lin Mo was surprised when he saw the percentage of loyalty of this girl. It seems that saving her from this hospital has paid off. The owner of the system had 300 points. Skill improvement notifications popped up in front of him. Considering the content of the messages, the guy concluded that at the moment the Bloody Eye and the big-chested ghost can activate only one skill. So now Lin Mo decided to activate one big-breasted ghost skill. He made an exchange. The activation was successful, and as a result, the mantra skill was obtained. The essence of this skill is that the enemy can be misled by various kinds of sounds, thereby causing the effect of dizziness, and when the enemy's blood volume is less than 5%, he can be killed. Power consumption, 50, restart, 180 seconds. The note was as follows. The effect of the skill lasts 40 seconds if the opponent is a ghost or a person of the same level. If the opponent is higher in level, the effect lasts half as long. That is, only 20 seconds. Stars sparkled in Lin Mo's eyes. The group control skill seemed to him simply amazing. Although the illusion of bloody hell can immobilize the enemy, he still has his mind with him, and as soon as he can move, he will immediately finish him off. From the second skill comes a completely different result. It affects the mind, interferes with clear thought, and the enemy becomes a walking target. Lin Mo was smiling like a madman, and now he wanted to find another ghost in order to make a contract with him. They made a decision. Now they need to look for a ghost who will be able to inflict high damage to his opponent. That is, a ghost warrior. Suddenly, an announcement was made at the hospital so that the students passing the test would know that there was only an hour left until midnight. It was said that the conditions of accommodation and meals are determined by the number of contracts concluded. Students with 2 or more contracts can be sent to the intensive care unit. Students with 1 contract go to the general ward. People who have not managed to conclude a single contract are forbidden to go anywhere. The chambers are located on the 5th floor. A special note was as follows. First, students can give their right of residence to someone else. Secondly, ferocious ghosts roam at night, so students who have not had time to sign any contract with a ghost are in the greatest danger and should be careful. There was half an hour left before the opening of the wards. It was necessary to hurry. Lin Mo walked and smiled, pleased with his results. He walked along with his ghosts, who followed him discontentedly. His smile did not disappear from his face. Lily and the 2 guys who are always following her looked into the intensive care unit, noticing how clean it was. Even the beds were made. In the general ward, everything was completely different. It felt like a bloody battle had taken place there. How deplorable everything was. Unfortunately, Lily managed to sign a contract with only 1 ghost, so the path to the intensive ward was closed for her. The bespectacled man hastened to reassure his friend, telling her to look at that long-haired girl standing in front of the entrance to the general ward. She couldn't even get inside, because she didn't have time to sign a single contract. Those who got into the general ward were much more lucky. The girl with long hair could not restrain herself and began to cry, standing in front of her companion. Suddenly another person appeared who asked the guys to let him go inside. Seeing Lin Mo, the bespectacled boy immediately blurted out all his successes. They managed to sign a contract with a ghost, but not with any kind. At least they have a full-fledged one, so the bloody eye will not save the guy. He will be broken like a toothpick. Lin Mo arched his eyebrows and smiled, replying that the boy's legs were too short. With such he would not be able to keep up with him. The angry bespectacled man said that Lin Mo would definitely have been sleeping in the corridor today if he hadn't accidentally stumbled upon that ghost in the ophthalmology department. Sleeping in the corridor, he would definitely have died. Lily was uncomfortable. She felt uncomfortable and said that it was disgusting. The very idea that she would live with such an idiot was killing her. Lin Mo reassured his classmate he would not live in the same room with them. The guys decided to give up his place in the general ward. The long-haired girl raised her hands and shouted to the guy to give the place to her. She was even ready to pay for it. The young man silently looked in her direction, and then smiled, saying that he was not going to give up his place. The whole point was that he was in an intensive ward. The bespectacled man almost fell because of such a statement. Lily protested. This can't be. The guy has a defective ghost, and in order to get into the intensive care unit, you need to sign a contract with at least 2 ghosts, because he won't be able to get inside. Lin Mo just waved away these annoying guys. He didn't care what they thought, let him pass. He passed by, stopped at the entrance of the ward he needed, touched the barrier with his hand. The check was completed quite quickly. The barrier successfully opened, letting the young man inside. Classmates looked at his back, their jaws dropped. How was this possible? How did he pass if he only has a defective ghost? They had a lot of questions, but only Mo received 150 points of destruction, and was pleased with it. He smiled humbly. Lily shouted after him, saying that there could be no mistakes in the school files, because there was clearly something wrong. She was sure that the guy had somehow cheated. The girl told him to get out, otherwise she threatened to tell everyone the truth. Mo just grinned, not even turning in her direction. Noticing the food, Lin Mo spoke about how well the organizers tried, since there is even hot food here. He admired aloud without hesitation. Duck, beef, tripe, everything exactly the way he likes. He took the chopsticks and began to eat, talking about how delicious it was. After that, the young man turned to his classmates, saying that it was very tasty, and they should try it too. With feigned surprise, he seemed to have just remembered that they could not do this, because they could not enter the intensive care unit. The guy said that he was very sorry, and then turned around and, devouring the food further, said that in this case he would eat everything all alone. The guys were very angry at him. They shouted his name in chorus. Lin Mo received another 100 points of destruction. This arrangement was to his liking. The table in front of Lin Mo was full of various dishes, and it all belonged to him alone. Sun Lily was angry, standing near the entrance to the intensive care unit. This guy lives in comfort and with food, while she is content with the general ward. With one hand on her waist and the other poking at a classmate, the girl declared her desire to change places with him. For such a service she offered the guy 10,000 yuan. The young man, who was busy eating, replied that he did not want to do it. Besides, he had already eaten enough. Did she really suggest that he spit out everything he ate? Lily angrily said that he could keep the food for himself and give her the room. She reminded him who her father was. He was a high-ranking official in the security service, so it was better not to offend her. The bespectacled man was angrier than ever, calling Lin Mo a shameless man who dared to contradict Mrs. Sun. Probably he wants to die. Putting chopsticks on the table, the guy replied that he didn't really care about everything they talked about. He got up from the table and walked over to the barrier that separated him from his classmates. Mo suddenly said that he would think about this proposal if the girl slapped Liu Zi. Liu Zi protested, perplexed that Lin Mo would allow himself to say such a thing to them. Lily was not so against this idea. She told the bespectacled man that she would compensate him for everything. He looked at his friend questioningly, as if not understanding what she was talking about. After that, Liu Zi stood in front of the girl and, stammering, said that she could do it. He squeezed his eyes shut and shrank all over, lifting his shoulders and pressing his head. His thoughts were only about one thing. You need to be patient a little now to get a present from the Sun family in the future. It's worth it. That's what he thought. The girl hit the guy. Lin Mo got 20 points of destruction, but pretended not to see or hear anything. He complained about his hearing. Liu Zi told the guy to stop sticking. Lily, without a moment's hesitation, swung again and hit her friend again. Lin Mo got 30 points of destruction this time. The boy in glasses was shaking and almost crying, hiding his face, and Lily turned to a classmate and said that he got his, so now he has to get out of the ward. Smiling, Mo apologized and said he couldn't do it. The girl got angry, calling him a scumbag who can't be trusted at all. The guy did not agree with this, because he said that he would only think about her proposal if she slapped him. In the end, he did so. He thought about it and decided that he did not agree. The essence of Lily was already beside herself with rage. She turned around, promising that Mo would regret everything tomorrow. Liu, on the other hand, held his cheek, and when the classmate he hated turned away, the guy said that he would pay for his behavior and for having the courage to contradict the Sun family. The system credited the owner with another 100 points of destruction. He was happy, thinking about how many points he earned on Sun Lily, and all for the reason that she is incredibly evil. The guy picked up the chopsticks again and began to eat. It was already late. It was dark in the hospital. A long-haired girl was standing near the general ward with her companion, who wanted to go inside. He could, because he managed to conclude a contract with a ghost, and she could not, because she did not. The girl asked Kunya not to leave. Would he really leave her here alone? What should she do if a ghost attacks her at night? She asked Wu Kunya if he wanted to give her his right to spend the night. Lin Mo heard their conversation perfectly. Wu Kun held the girl's hands and comforted her. He asked her not to worry, because he got a ghost warrior. If she was attacked at night, she could just call him for help, and he would help. The girl was crying, reminding that the guy confessed his love to her. Were all his vows of protection a lie? The girl told Wu Kunyu that if he signed a contract with a ghost, then his fighting skills would be better than hers, and the survival rate outside was also very high. Besides, if he was attacked by a ghost, she would ask Sun Lily and others to come to his aid. She would make all her efforts for this. The guy gave up and finally agreed. The girl immediately beamed, kissing him and saying that she loved him. Lin Mo, who heard the whole conversation, called the girl an idiot. Wu Kun smiled as he said goodbye to his beloved, unaware of the danger that awaited him. Lin Mo was already asleep in his room, snoring loudly. The others couldn't sleep. Liu Zi, who was still angry, thought that their classmate could not just get into the intensive care unit. How could he deserve the right to live in such a place? In addition, he constantly bullied Sun Lily, and did nothing but make her look like a complete fool. Lily made a decision. As soon as they get home, she will do everything to ensure that this guy is not taken anywhere. The girl looked at the bed, which was completely covered in blood, covered her nose with disdain and wondered how she could sleep in such a place. Liu Zi took off his shirts, saying that he could put his clothes on, and he did so. He put them on the bed. He smiled, pointing the girl to a place where she can sit down, because now it has become a little cleaner. Lily appreciated that the guy was so smart. Wu Kun was sitting in the corridor by the wall, hugging his knees with his hands. He had no face at all. There were circles under his eyes. He was scared, but he just had to wait for dawn, then everything would calm down. Suddenly, from the darkness of the corridor, he heard a noise. He asked in a panic who it was, and a silhouette of a huge ghost appeared in front of him, his eyes glowing red in the dark. The ghost had a mask on his face. He giggled and craved human meat. It was a chainsaw ghost. Its level is ferocious. Kunya's jaw dropped. He was scared. The guy was backing away. He decided that this was the end. But he had to do something right now to save his life. He summoned his ghost. It was an axe ghost. When he appeared, he said that it was already midnight. At this time people should be sleeping. The enemy with a chainsaw demanded meat. The axe ghost was scared himself, because he did not believe at all that he could cope with such an opponent. However, Wukun said that they would both die if they didn't try anything. The saw clashed in the battle with the axe. Sparks flew. The fight that unfolded in front of the general ward was watched by the rest of the guys, including Mo. A girl with long hair was lying on the bed. When she was approached, asking if it was her boyfriend, she got scared and hid under the blanket, started shaking and repeating that she was fine. Even her voice was trembling. The three looked at this coward in disbelief. Lin Mo laughed. He stated that he would go and look at it. Maybe this ghost would be a good candidate. Maybe he would be useful to him. The fight was in full swing. The ghost with a saw kicked the opponent, who was pinned to the ground and no longer had any chance of winning. With a saw, the ferocious beast sawed off the ghost's hand with an axe. Blood gushed out. The victim screamed loudly from the pain piercing the body. The ghost bit off a piece of the obtained meat, but immediately threw it aside. He did not like the ghost's flesh. It was not so tasty. He shouted that he did not like it, and swung, cutting off the enemy's head with a saw. The ghost with the axe was defeated. Lin Mo watched this painting and couldn't hide his admiration. A ghost with a saw tore apart another ghost in an instant. Without even blinking an eye, it was worthy. It seems that the power of a ghost with a chainsaw is quite powerful. Not only the HP level is great, but also the attack power is distinctive. Right now, Lin Mo also had the blood eye and big-chested ghost illusion skills. Only the attacker was missing. It would be nice to sign a contract with that bully. However, ghosts of various kinds may be hiding in the black fog. Mo did not want to hurry. Now is not the time to act rashly. It is better to wait for dawn. The bully demanded meat again. He needed living flesh, human flesh. Wukun was cornered. There seemed to be nowhere else to run. The monster smelled human flesh and walked straight at him, hoping to taste a little. Wukun started screaming and calling for his girlfriend, Xiao Qian. He asked her to help him, so that she asked the others to save him. Everyone heard him and told her that her name was, but the girl could only hide under the blanket, shake with fear and ask for forgiveness. Lin Mo looked at the girl. He wondered if this was really the love that she herself had recently talked about. Wukun continued to scream and call for help. He was scared. The ghost waved the saw, lifting it into the air, and tried to hit the guy with it. He rushed to run. He tried to dodge, but received a strong blow, because of which blood sprayed from his mouth. His body flew against the wall, hitting hard. The ghost demanded meat. He came closer, repeating all the time that he needed to taste human flesh. He started the saw and began to saw off the hand of his victim, who was screaming in pain. The boy's hand fell to the ground. Finally separating from the body, the ghost picked it up from the floor and began to eat. Human meat, unlike ghost meat, pleased him. He enjoyed the meal, saying how delicious it was. Wukun was sitting against the wall, looking at the danger that was right in front of him. He has already realized that there is nowhere to run, and he does not have such an opportunity. The guy decided that a failed exam is much better than death. His body was trembling. With one hand he reached into his pocket for a talisman that would allow him to teleport to a safe place. This is his only way to save his life, to leave here safely. Salvation was already close, but it was difficult for him to tear the talisman with one hand. He tried, but it didn't work out, and the ghost kept demanding meat. He had already finished his hand, wanted more, and was ready to use his weapon again, a chainsaw. He hit her. Sparks flew, because he only hit the wall. Debris flew. Wukun was already in another place. Lin Mo called him an idiot and gave him a hint. If the guy can't tear the talisman with his hand, why not try using his mouth for this? Wukun heard these words. He was lying on the floor. A ghost towered over him, who was about to strike. The guy looked at his salvation, used his teeth, as he was told, to break the talisman. Words of gratitude hung in the air. When the ghost with the saw struck, his victim had already disappeared. Participants, Wukun dropped out of the test, but he remained alive. The incident angered the ghost. He did not understand where his meat had gone and demanded to return it to its place. Lin Mo received 40 points of destruction. Now the guy was teasing the ghost, left without food. He was mocking and showing his tongue to him, making a face. The ghost, enraged, went towards the ward from where the man was teasing him. He wanted to hit with a saw, but she only drew on the barrier. Sparks flew. So looked at the bully and yawned, thereby showing how bored he was. The guy looked somewhere to the side. He showed the ghost his hand, holding it closer to him, and began to ask if he wanted to eat. Looking at the human flesh and feeling this sweet smell, because of which the saliva flowed from the mouth, the ghost was completely upset. Of course he wanted it, it wasn't even worth asking. Lin Mo, hearing the answer, apologized, saying that nothing would work, and again began to mimic this weirdo. He only got even more angry. He started hitting his saw against the barrier, but it was all in vain. Nothing came of it. But the young man received another 60 points of destruction. Out of breath, the ghost stopped doing this, and Lin Mo asked why he suddenly stopped and whether he would continue. The bully was tired, he couldn't do anything, because of which he was indignant. The monster turned around, deciding to leave here, and went straight down the corridor. Looking at his back, the guy asked where he was going and what was the point of everything that was happening if he decided to just leave this place. Lin Mo put his hand on the barrier. There was an unblocking. He notified the ghost that he had gone outside and asked if he wanted to taste his meat. And the bully really wanted meat. He stopped. The other guys watched Lin Mo's actions and could not understand what he was doing and what he was trying to achieve. Liu Zi was already sure that now this guy had definitely come to an end. Now he would say goodbye to his life. The bully found hope again. He began to laugh and demand meat again and again. Lin Mo was smiling when the ghost appeared next to him. The guy stepped over the barrier again and was now safe. The meat-eater ran into an obstacle that stood in his way to human flesh. Liu Zi was scared, and Mo continued to bring the ghost. He gasped and said that he had gone inside again. Lin Mo received another 50 points of destruction, and the enraged ghost walked down the corridor, realizing that he had nothing to catch here. The student took up his own. He ran out of the board, asking the bully not to leave, because now his food is outside. Anger was already overflowing the ghost. He rushed towards the boy, intending to kill him, but he went inside again. The ghost was exhausted, and besides, the weight that dragged behind his leg made it difficult to move so quickly. This went on many times. Lin Mo had fun harassing the monster. He had to run back and forth. He was furious, but for the student it seemed fun. When Mo was standing in the ward, and the ghost was behind the barrier in front of his opponent, the other guys looked at it from the side. Is this guy not scared at all? Lily said he was just sick, and Liu Zi gloated. Let this fool continue provoking the ghost with a chainsaw. As soon as morning comes and the protective barrier falls, he will skin him. Suddenly, one of the guys screamed, urging the others to watch Lin Mo chase a ghost with a chainsaw. Liu Zi's jaw dropped. The bully was running away from the annoying kid. He ran after him and asked not to run away. He called him to go with him, but the ghost did not stop. The degree of protection of the ghost had fallen by 80%. It simply could not be released now. The young man caught up with the ghost, showing him his appetizing human hand. He was looking at the desired flesh. He had had enough. He screamed, intending to get even with this man for all those bullying. He waved the saw, but then Lin Mo used the skill, the art of the disciple. The illusion of hell. The ghost froze, not understanding what happened to him now and why he can't move. The young man came closer and continued to tease the bully, showing his hand and offering to eat it and praising in every possible way. She's so nice, not fat, but not skinny either. Mo patted the ghost's face, asking why he wasn't moving or eating. The protection fell by 90%. There was only 9% left for access to the conclusion of the contract. The effect of the illusion of bloody hell for high-rank ghosts was only 10 seconds. The countdown was already going on in the guy's head. 3, 2, 1. Time was up. The ghost could move again. He struck with a ferocious cry. Hitting only the floor, Lin Mo dodged and was now behind his enemy's back. He calmly said that it seemed that the bully did not want to eat, so he could forget about it. The monster was already on fire, shaking with rage. He turned around, saying that he would kill this boy. Finally, the protection fell by 99%. It was possible to conclude a contract. The student was satisfied with his work and started the contract signing process with a winning smile. Now the guy said his memorized phrase, asking Mr. Ghost with a chainsaw if he would like to sign a contract with Lin Mo and become his third ghost. When the bully was thanked for his consent, he looked around questioningly, because he did not give any consent. However, contrary to his will, the contract was concluded. 10%, 20%. The contract was concluded, and the ghost only calmly and with incomprehension said that he had not said anything. The ghost began to merge with his contract employee. The third ghost was now with Lin Mo. The mark from him remained on his arm. It was the image of a chainsaw. The examiner, who was watching the guy, arching an eyebrow, thought that the ghost with the chainsaw was still a rebel. So how did they manage to sign a contract with him at all? Even the security bureau cannot give the right to force the conclusion of a contract. So how did this student manage? This kid seemed very interesting. An announcement was made in the hospital that the ghost with the chainsaw was suppressed. Now there is only one ghost of the same level left. Because the guys have to be careful. Lily wondered how such a thing could even be. How could it be suppressed? Lucy couldn't believe it either. Lin Mo got an inferior ghost, so how could he resist the one with the chainsaw? This ghost was so ferocious, and in the end, this is what happened. Lin Mo went into the general ward where the guys were standing. He got another 40 points of destruction and thought about how good his classmates were, since he could get points without even paying attention to them. The guys were very angry. It's time to see the characteristics of the new ghost. His level is a Furious Ghost Novice, points 560, loyalty was 5%. The guy looked thoughtful. In his opinion, loyalty, of course, was underestimated. But the ghost with a chainsaw is very stupid, therefore it will be easier to deceive him. As soon as the exam is over, you just need to buy him pork, and loyalty will immediately increase. Ordinary ghosts can activate only one skill, but the ghosts of the Furious rank can activate 2 at once. Lin Mo had accumulated a lot of points, so now was the time to activate skills. The exchange was successful. The passive skill Bloodlust was obtained. It consists in the fact that when receiving damage, the attack power increases by 2 points. The more damage to the ghost, the higher the attack power. Now one skill was activated and the other was not, but Lin Mo activated the second one as well. There was an exchange. The skill gained was a chainsaw dance. It consisted in the fact that the ghost brandishes a chainsaw, striking randomly at the neighborhood. Lin Mo enthusiastically looked at it. The passive skill increased strength and area attacks. It was great. Thanks to group control and a new ghost, now the young man is too tough for anyone. He will be able to defeat people whose combat capability exceeds 90%. The ghost of the first limit deals with the ordinary ghost, the ghost of the second limit with the furious ghost, the ghost of the third limit with the demonic ghost. The only drawback, according to Lin Mo, was the fact that some ghosts are equivalent to each other. To the full extent, the young man can only control ordinary ghosts, while a furious one, like a ghost with a chainsaw, is not particularly amenable yet. If you only deal with illusions, then most likely the ghost with a chainsaw will get out of control and become uncontrollable. High fidelity will close all these shortcomings, but at the moment it is not so easy to get it. Lin Mo thought that it seemed like it was necessary to improve the ghost as quickly as possible. The guy was a little tired. He started yawning, so he decided to drop his thoughts, because sleep is more important now. He flopped down on the bed to finally fall asleep. Morning came. Lin Mo had already woken up. He was eating now when he saw his classmates. They seemed tired and exhausted. The guy asked if they had had breakfast yet, and suggested that they finish what he had left. A little hot would be enough for them. Sun Lily said that he was simply unbearable, and Mo received another 80 points of destruction. He thought it was fun. The girl with long hair was now next to Mo. She was sighing. He looked at her. Seeing the eyes fixed on her, Xiao Qian stammered and asked why the guys were looking at her like that. Lin Mo, with a serious expression on his face, said that there was blood all over the floor now. He asked if she had anything to say about it. The girl began to explain, saying that she did not have a ghost, so she could not help Wu Kunyu in any way. Besides, he voluntarily gave her his right to spend the night, so Lin Mo, according to her, should not mind his own business. He irritably reminded that the girl had made a promise, said that she would call for help if anything happened, but she did not lift a finger to do something. If it were not for Wu Kun, it would be her body lying outside. These words angered Xiao Qian. Lin Mo received 50 points of destruction. The young man told his classmate that she was just terrible and should not have made any promises. He also said that no one would help her at the next exam. The examiner asked for a moment of attention and announced to all students that from that moment a special mode of rank A, the Royal Battle Mode, begins. Currently, there is 1 mid-rank ghost left, as well as 3 novice ghosts. The Furious Ghost has already set off on their trail. The guys have to pass the exam before 12 o'clock in the afternoon. Sun Lily said that yesterday's ghost with a chainsaw was very strong, so he's not the only one. Liu Zi was worried that they had made a contract with weak ghosts. They are not a match for a medium-rank ghost. Another guy with tears coming to his eyes suggested that they run. Lily asked where they should run to at all. If they don't know where the Furious Ghost is, they might accidentally stumble upon it. Xiao Qian screamed, asking what they would do now. She was panicking the most, and behind her, the silhouette of a monster suddenly clearly appeared. Sun Lily rudely replied that Xiao Qian was on her own, and they had nothing to do with her, so she had to figure it out herself and go her own way. They would go their own way. The long-haired girl was scared. Now Lin Mo noticed the ghost near Xiao's classmate. He stared at him in horror. It was an invisible ghost of fierce rank. He's already found them. Lin Mo quickly guessed that the other guys couldn't see what he was seeing. It seemed it was all because of the blood eye. His vision improved when the fusion took place. The guy touched his eye with his hand. It turns out that the invisible ghost is attacking stealthily. Lin Mo turned to Blood Eye, saying that he had excellent eyesight. He replied that he was, because he was cool. The young man could only envy such self-esteem. Lin Mo suddenly informed the guys that the ghost could be here. He pointed in the direction of the trio, making it clear that the danger could be right behind them. The guys did not react in any way, because they had long been accustomed to the behavior of a classmate, and now they did not believe him, saying that he was talking nonsense again. Lily asked if he thought it was fun and called him a prankster. Xiao Qian also said that it was complete nonsense, but immediately a ghost's hand penetrated through her body. The girl trembled all over, there was a hole in her body, the girl saw it and, sighing, asked for help, stuttering. Xiao Qian was now completely in the arms of the ghost. He wrapped his tongue around her body, leaving no chance of salvation. The girl's eyes had already rolled up. The legs of the other guys trembled. They realized that it was a ghost, but were surprised by his sudden appearance. He jumped out of nowhere. Now he was out of sight again. It was unclear where he had gone now. Xiao Qian's body split into 3 parts. Her remains collapsed to the floor. The girl dropped out. The exam was over for her. All 4 of them stared at the lifeless body lying there. Lin Mo watched, covering his mouth with his hand. He thought that she could have been helped if she had not acted like a real egoist last night. She could still have been saved. But she is not a person who deserves sympathy. Even now, Lin Mo turned to the guys, saying that he immediately told them that there was a ghost here, and they did not believe it. Everyone was scared. In any case, the guy had a bloody eye, so it would not be difficult for him to know about the location of the ghost. With these thoughts, the guy rushed in the other direction. Sun Lily noticed something. The girl's body suddenly began to move, as if someone was lifting her hand, so the student guessed that there must be a ghost involved, which they are not able to see. Luzi, after listening to her suggestion, asked how, in that case, Lin Mo was able to see him. The girl told the guys that they need to run after Mo, because, probably, his bloody eye can see what ordinary vision does not allow to see. It's best for them to be around this guy right now. Liu Zi was dissatisfied with the state of affairs, because he was the first to discover that ghost with the bloody eye. But why did Lin Mo end up with it? The system credited 40 points of destruction to his master, who was surprised where the points came from, if he didn't really do anything now. Looking behind him, the young man noticed those who were running after him, and wondered why they were running here. The invisible ghost follows his classmates while these 3 are chasing him. Does that mean that the ghost is chasing him too? It was problematic for him. He had to come up with something. The ghost with the chainsaw said he would kill the damn ghost, and Lin Mo asked why he had a grudge against the invisible man. The answer was simple. He took a lot of meat from the bully. The ghost with the chainsaw could not contain his rage. Lin Mo understood that if he could not increase his loyalty, sooner or later this time bomb would definitely explode. It looked like he needed to help him deal with the invisible ghost. Then maybe the bully would treat him much better. The guy braked sharply, turning in the direction from which he had previously fled. The guys also stopped, and now they were standing face to face. Sun Lily, out of breath, asked why the guy stopped. Did he manage to find a ghost? The young man asked if they would get tired of running until 12 o'clock, and one of the trio asked what else they could do in such a situation. Flight, in his opinion, is the best solution at the moment. Lin Mo sees ghosts, so he has to take them all with him, and they will thank him properly. Lily and Liu Zi were standing with dissatisfied faces, but it was not the right time to protest. Smiling, Mo said that he was too lazy to run from this ghost, and Lily said that it was certain death, because their enemy was a furious ghost of the middle rank. Even their teachers would have a very difficult time with him. Liu Zi said that everything was fine, and suggested that they just hide and wait for their classmate to deal with this ghost. The ghost was getting closer. It was jumping straight at Lin Mo from the ceiling. The examiner, with the help of the eye, designed the examination board. Everything that happens during the exams suitable today. One man said in frustration that everything is of course. The situation was as follows. 7 students who were in the tomb of the living dead failed the exam. 4 were seriously injured. 3 more died. The same thing happened to 8 participants in the bloody metro station. Almost all retreated, and 1 was sent to a psychiatric hospital altogether. If everything continues in the same spirit, then they will not be able to recruit people who will be responsible for their future. The man turned to Ammon, asking how she was doing. The girl said that she had 4 left. The man thought it was a good result. Ammon said that initially one guy even failed the certification, and now he is fighting with a furious ghost. She was told that it was not easy to cope with a ghost of this rank. It was better to run right away, because it would not be possible to last long. Everyone was going to see what would happen next, because it's not enough that the young man has a ghost with the illusion skill with him. Someone said that students rarely show such courage. In fact, a lot of people choose the A rank when passing the exam, but how many manage to successfully pass it? Annam closed her eyes, bitterness reflected on her face. She felt sorry for this guy. Meanwhile, in the hospital, the invisible ghost flew straight at Lin Mo, but he sharply looked at him with his bloody eye, deciding to catch him in an illusion. However, the ghost immediately disappeared, being behind the guy. He turned around, paying tribute. It was fast. The invisible man was rushing at the man from behind, pulling his hands towards him, but the guy turned back in his direction. The three classmates closed their eyes. Everyone has already decided that Lin Mo is the end. Well, who asked him to fight a furious ghost? One guy dared to peek, and said in delight that Lin Mo was not dead. Now everyone boldly opened their eyes. It seemed that even Lily and Lucy were glad that everything was fine. A big-breasted ghost wig in the air with her instrument, she was playing some melody. The fact that Mo summoned another ghost seemed surprising, because everyone thought that the upper limit of his ghost was 0.5. It turned out that this was not the case. He was probably able to increase the upper limit for the conclusion of the contract. He has another ghost. Now his limit is 1.5. But Liu Zi thought that, fortunately, it is still less than his limit, because his limit is 2. Lin Mo at this time calmly touched another mark on his hand, this time calling the ghost with a chainsaw. He immediately appeared, ready for the battle with the enemy. The young man was smiling. The saw roared, the ghost swung it, the invisible one stared at the danger, and Lin Mo ordered the bully to act. He did not need to be asked twice. He immediately went to the one with whom he had a long-standing score. The six-eyed monster howled in pain, but the spirit didn't care. The chainsaw blade sawed the monster's shoulder with a loud noise, releasing a whole river of blood. And sometime after such excruciating pain, the monster lost his arm and half of his body, and the spirit growled, asking who allowed him to take his meat. At this time, the system turned to the owner, telling him to pay attention that the volume of the invisible ghost's blood is 5%. The guy was surprised by this fact, and he wondered that the blood flow was so strong. Without thinking twice, the guy with rage in his eyes shouted that it was time to get rid of the monster, and his other spirit with a zither on his hand started playing, and the waves destroyed the monster, whose body was torn to pieces. At this time, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that the loyalty of the ghost with a chainsaw objected by 20%, and its current value was 25%. And while the guy was listening to this notification, a green ball fell out of the corpse. The guy smiled and thought that the ghost with the chainsaw is so simple. All his joy lies only in meat, so the guy decided to buy him some more meat later. The guy went up to the golden ball and picked it up with joy in his eyes. He thought that he could pawn ghost beads on the black market. They would definitely get a lot of money. The guy recalled the spirits, and the becoming clumps of energy entered his hand. At this time, three people who were watching the fight shouted. A blonde with short hair, a girl with ponytails, a guy with glasses, at once exclaimed that this guy had signed a contract with a maniac ghost. Of course it shocked them. The bespectacled man, frowning with cold sweat on his face, said that the guy already had 2 full-fledged ghosts, and 1 incomplete one. He has already surpassed the bespectacled man himself. The girl continued with the same shock as the bespectacled man, saying that besides all this, he managed to activate the skills screamed for such a short time. The girl, thinking about their difference, realized that Lin Mo had exceeded all her expectations. If everything continues like this, he will take away the first place from her. She immediately imagined him laughing loudly at her and the bespectacled man, and turned pale. Frowning, the girl looked at the grinning guy who was walking with his hands in his pockets and thought that this asshole should no longer sign a contract with ghosts. Otherwise serious problems would arise. Scream. This incident was also watched from the observation hall by 3 more people. A man with black hair screamed that it was just a horror. Lin Mo signed a contract with 3 ghosts in less than a day. This is an amazing progress. The girl with short silver hair supported her colleague by continuing his thought, saying that moreover, he activated the skills very quickly. The man with black hair awkwardly scratched his head and said that his eyesight had failed him. He thought that Lin Mo had gone crazy when he started talking about some invisible ghost. At this time, an elderly voice was heard saying that among the students, the exception of the daughter of Director Gao, who killed 2 furious ghosts of Lin Mo, screamed, the only one of its kind. He was a middle-aged, white-haired man. Everyone in the room turned in his direction, and the old man asked if there were any more students advancing gaoshishi. Seeing the smiling old man with glasses, everyone immediately greeted the minister. The minister said that after the exam, Ammon should go to his school and contact Lin Mo. He decided that they would provide him with the best educational resources. The girl with gorgeous black hair bowed and said she would do it. At this time, on the roof of the hospital, looking down, I thought that every ghost in this world has an unforgettable story and skills that are waiting for the guy to find out about them and get them. Monsters were walking below, and people screamed. Grinning maliciously, the guy thought that he hoped to soon acquire a whole army of ghosts, and he can be and finally rise to the top of this world. After all, he can have tens of thousands of spirits. Smiling, he said that it looks like his business is not so bad. The man in Chinese clothes looked at his watch, soon put it away and smiled and told the 4 people standing in front of him that the exam was over, so now the scoring would begin. While the man was floating in the sky, the 4 participants looked up at him. The man with lipstick smiled broadly and said that both Kun and Xiao Jian score 0 points. After that, the judge continued saying that Zhao Yuan managed to sign a contract with 1 ghost, but did not kill a single ghost, so he scores 60 points. Hearing this, the blonde man sighed with relief, and the judge continued. He said that Liu Jai managed to sign a contract with a ghost. Moreover, he was able to kill 1 ghost, so he scores 70 points. The bespectacled man, hearing this, clenched his teeth in rage, but the following words, which praised Sun Lai Lai, screamed that she had managed to conclude a contract with a ghost, and also killed 2 ghosts, screamed that she had received 80 points, forced the girl herself to smile proudly and nod to herself. At this time, the man looked at the last participant and said that Lin Mo had signed a contract with 2 ordinary ghosts, and 1 furious, and also killed 5 ordinary ghosts, and 1 furious, shouted that he scored 90 points. Of course, this news did not like the girl and the bespectacled man, who tore his hair, but the guy himself was pleased. The judge said that Lin Mo became the leader in their trial, so he gets a green ghost bead as a reward. The guy happily took the green bead and looked at him with a grin and thought that now he has 5 ordinary ghost beads, 1 medium-rank furious ghost bead and a high-rank ghost bead, which is enough to advance the bloody ghost eye to the furious level. When this happens, the guy will be able to activate his second skill. The guy grinned and put a green bead in a bag, and seeing this, the blonde man was surprised to say that this guy put a green bead in a garbage bag. And the bespectacled man, enraged, clenched his teeth and fist, saying that he did not appreciate anything. At that moment, the teacher folded his hand in the seal and began to apply the skill, and at the same time congratulated everyone on successfully passing the exam, and then he informed them that they were all going back. Fire swirled around everyone, and at that moment the guy looked around and noticed something, frowned, but then looked away. At that time, at school, the teacher was praying to herself, sweating all over, that God would help her students return unharmed. At that moment, the space around the desks was charged, and this pleased the teacher, and after she happily asked that they had returned. But after a second she looked at the class with despair and asked how this was possible. She watched as her students with broken arms, or no arms or legs at all, screamed in pain, and asked to call an ambulance, because they were going to die. Someone shouted that he could not see his eyes, and someone drowning in his own puddle of blood stretched out his hand to the teacher, and asked for help. The girl ran into the corridor shouting to call a doctor, because her students had lost too much blood. After a while, there were already a lot of doctors in the class who were dealing with the students. The girl counted everyone and said that 20 people had passed the test and 10 of them were seriously injured. Then a girl with a pale face said that Lin Mo had survived in the realm of rank ghosts. This fact surprised the guy in earnest and he turned pale. Seeing this, the teacher anxiously asked if the guy was okay, and seeing that he was not responding, the girl asked why he was silent. Did he really get a mental injury? The girl hugged the student, pressed him to her chest, stroking his head, and reassuringly said that everything was fine, because it was all over, but the guy was looking at the teacher's chest with embarrassment. At that moment, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, talking about his result, and he immediately drew attention to it and read that he had received 90 points, and this was the best indicator. The surprised girl with her mouth open looked at the results of her student and thought that in talents he took first place in points, too, but he also broke all school records, and also did not get injured. The teacher wondered how this is even possible. The teacher happily slapped the student on the back, saying that he was truly her student. She always knew he was the most promising. The guy shuddered from such a thing and suspiciously squinted at the teacher, thinking that she had mocked him before. Then the girl saw the package and asked about what was there, and the guy said that there were his awards from the hospital. The girl asked with interest that he had received them from the deceased, and the guy nodded. The girl looked at these shiny pebbles and was shocked to think that it was amazing that the average student could pass the A rank exam, and there was still time left for him to dig into the corpses. And then the girl grinned at the shining hero and thought, that isn't Lin Mo a new rising star in a world full of ghosts? The guy saw the thoughtful look of the teacher with suspicion, squinted at her, but at that time he heard some kind of groan and turning his head saw a giant snuffling, a neighbor on the desk. The guy thought with a grin that now this guy would be sleeping off the ghost kingdom for days on end. After looking through the window of the soaring guy with a snuffling giant and seeing that he had received 60 points in the realm of B rank ghosts, he said that he considered this guy very capable. Poking at the sleeping guy, Lin Mo began to wake him up, saying that classes were over, but he did not wake up because the guy screamed, asking if he was going to sleep here forever, but this did not work. Then the guy took out band notes, waved them, and said that he was treating him. At that moment, the giant immediately opened his eyes and looked at the money, rubbing his eyes and yawning. The fat man asked what the guy should treat him to which Prue said that the guy was a real gourmet since he was breathing so hard. After a while, they were already on the street. Suddenly the guy's phone vibrated and the guy picked it up and saw that it was his father calling. Although the guy's ringtone was so-so, the guy informed his friend that he could still answer the guy. He could come in. His friend nodded and the guy picked up the troop. An excited male voice immediately rang into the phone, who asked him how his exam went. The guy smiled and said that he had good news. He had passed the Raga, a test, becoming the best in it. At this time, at the other end of the phone, the guy's father Lin Gang and his mother and Shuang were in the field, and hearing the news, the father shouted joyfully, then told the mother that their son had become the best. The woman, wiping sweat from her forehead, is joyful, praised her son, saying that he was a good fellow. And then the woman smiled and said that now they would rub the nose of everyone in the village with this news. A father with a scythe dripping with blood told his son not to worry about money. They would sell wheat and send the guy some savings. The guy smiled and said that there was no need for this, and then told his parents to rest, because they are no longer young. The old man laughed and said that he and the boy's mother were still in their prime. Then the old man told the guy to eat well. The guy said he would do it, and then when the guy turned off the phone, the old man smiled maliciously and said that their son had already become an adult. At this time, there were too many people lying in front of him. One of them raised his head and said to this scumbag that the police would not leave it like that, to which Lin Mo's father with a bloody look immediately slashed at the throat of the speaker with a scythe, which caused blood to gush. Clenching his teeth, the old man, enraged, asked that they would not leave. Yes, he would get rid of this scum before it happened. At that moment, the woman looking at these severed heads said that this was the 7th wave this year. The security service had not yet discovered them. Did they really think that something would change soon? Instead of people lying on the ground, the old man said that he did not think so. It looks like the security service has expanded the scope of the search. If they get them, they will go even further. The woman looked at her husband and asked him what they would do then, if he was afraid of harming Lin Mo. The man laughed madly and said that they would go to the main office of the security service and kill everyone. The delicious smell of food spread along with the steam coming from the bowl of dishes. Looking at this huge amount of food in the bowl, Lin Mo, with shock on his face, turned his gaze to Puffy and asked if Puffy could eat it all. He smiled broadly and said that the guy himself offered to treat him, so he shouldn't whine. The whole pale guy looked into his wallet thinking that probably this kebab was for a big company, and they cost decently. The guy managed to exchange the gold found in the dungeon, shouted 50,000 yuan. The guy turned around and asked a friend about the fact that in the realm of ghosts, whatever the D rank, he signed a contract with one of the ghosts. The guy started remembering that trash basket and said that first he saw a ghost in the trash, then he decided to climb in there, and then he was starving all day. The guy, surprised, grabbed his nose and screamed and said that was probably why the pudgy guy stinks of garbage. But the fat man himself didn't care about it and he continued to crunch the barbecue. The guy looked at his friend with concern and said that unfortunately from that day on their paths diverge. He will go to a weak college and Lin Mo is waiting for a more successful path. He must not forget it. The guy closed his eyes and said that in any case, theoretical knowledge was at a very weak level, and the guy added to himself that besides, he did not think that the difference between college and uni was great. At that moment, the chubby guy shouted to his friend to look in the wrong direction, because some beauty was hanging around there. The guy turned around and saw on the TV a beautiful woman with golden hair who was throwing flails of lightning at the enemy. It was Gao Shishi, the daughter of the head of the security bureau. She easily beheaded 2 furious level ghosts during today's exam. The guy with an indifferent face looking at this yellow-eyed girl said that in any case, Daddy provides her with all the resources, so killing a furious level ghost is not particularly surprising. The chubby man looked at his friend with a dissatisfied look and said that he could not grasp the essence. The girl is beautiful. Therefore, the guy does not understand anything. He needs to explain everything to him. The guy grinned and said that this is a typical thinking of a male. He also screamed at her for 3 years, but nothing happened. From this, the chubby man turned pale and, bowing his head in despair, said in a trembling voice that it was a horror. Even his entire appetite disappeared from this. At this time, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. Of course, the guy was delighted with such news and smiled contentedly. The chubby man, dissatisfied with chewing a kebab, looked at his friend and said that he thought that Gao Shishi would be able to enter the best university in their province. Judging by the results of the exam, the guy has every chance to enroll with Gao Shishi. He should not forget about his friend and should send him pictures of the girl. The guy grinned and told the chubby guy not to worry, because the guy was going to send a picture of his brother Ganzai. His friend looked at him with a puzzled look and asked who else he was, and the guy said with awareness that this was 1 star and thought to himself that he had completely forgotten, and exhaled, thought that there was no brother Guanzai in this world. After they finished, the crescent moon was already high in the sky. The chubby man happily informed that he went and Lin Mo nodded to him, and then he himself stopped a taxi and told the driver to take him to Bailan. The driver nodded and the guy sat down in the taxi and she drove off. While the guy was driving in the car, he was looking at the phone, but suddenly everything shook and the guy looked out the window and shouted to the driver that Bailan was in the other direction. The driver grinned and the guy in the mirror in front of him saw it and was shocked and shouted that it was some kind of damn car. The driver reported that they were almost nailed and abruptly turned the steering wheel because of what the taxi screamed turned sharply. The guy looked stunned and screamed before the car door was opened and he was forced to get out. When he came out, he saw 2 others, some girl and a bald guy. The guy looked at the girl who was standing with her back to him and grinned and thought that she had good forms. This was emphasized by her short skirt and 2-tone baseball cap. The girl turned and showed a face decorated like a clown. She grinned and said it was great. The guy, seeing her painted face and turning pale, clicked and said that it looked like she was only beautiful from the back. From irritation, the veins on the girl's forehead swelled, and she herself, enraged, asked about what he said. The guy looked at the window in front of him in surprise, because when he taunted the girl, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 20 points of destruction. The guy with the twisted face thought that this girl's face was familiar to him. The girl was approaching him in a rage, and when the guy recoiled, the girl's foot crashed into the taxi door, shackling the guy in front of her. Twisting her face, the girl said that according to her sources, the guy collected a lot of ghost beads in the realm of ghosts. Smiling, the girl advised the guy to give it all to her voluntarily and then she would think about saving the guy's life. The surprised guy recoiled with a pale face and asked that this kind of thing happens not only in movies. The guy awkwardly smiled, spread his hands and told his sister that he had been deficient since childhood, so his organs would be of little use. That's why he can't give her anything. The girl was even more angered by this behavior and, having become enraged, she pointed at the guy and asked about the ghost what his organs were doing here, because she was talking about ghost beads. The guy smiled awkwardly, asked about the ghost pig, and then asked if it tasted delicious. The girl clenched her fist, said that the guy was also a fool to Mo. It seems he does not understand what position he was in. Does he know that a new group has appeared in the district, so she is its head? The security forces almost caught her half a month ago, so she paved a bloody path through several streets, and she didn't bat an eye at the ghost. From such news, the guy frowned, and then, grinning, asked the girl that she hadn't blinked for a long time. Her eyes hadn't dried up at least. From this behavior of the guy, the girl fell into a stupor, and then she trembled all over, becoming enraged. Clenching her teeth, she looked at the guy in a rage and screamed, asking what he was talking about. Does it make any difference? At this time, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying he had received 20 points of destruction. The guy awkwardly smiled, raised his hands in a sign of retreat and said that he was just curious. If he does not close his eyes for so long, he will get a corneal burn. From such bullying, the girl became even more enraged and with swollen veins screamed that the guy was infuriating. What does it have to do with the eyes at all? Because it's not about them. The guy should give her the ghost beads right now. A new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that this time he had earned 60 points of destruction. At this time, the bald giant who had been sitting all this time got up and with a sword in his hand, he told the head that they should just deal with him. The girl looked at that big guy, and at that time the guy in a panic pushed her away and shouted that it was disgusting and ran away. The three bandits looked at the fleeing guy. The bald guy began to summon his drunkard ghost, and the driver began to get a ghost with a green aura. The girl was standing with her arms folded under her chest. Soon two spirits came forward, one with an orange aura, fat and with a barrel in his hand, and the other green and with half a body. A girl with a gloomy face ordered them to attack, and the ghosts bent down on the fleeing guy. The blows fell right in the place from where the guy jumped back a second ago, and cracks began to appear on the ground. The guy with clenched teeth looked at the opponents and saw that they were preparing for battle again. Taking a stance, the guy with a cold sweat thought that this was the first time he was fighting with ghost masters. He must not act rashly. There were 4 people and 2 spirits standing on the street. 3 bandits from the side looked at the 2 spirits who were fighting with their victim. The guy remembered the news, cautiously preparing for an attack. The news reported that an organized criminal organization had recently appeared. But the security bureau, the guy thought they had everything sorted out. Grinning, the guy thought that in any case, it's not difficult to cope with these guys, and then said out loud that they don't seem to be particularly strong. Hearing this, the bald bugger, enraged, shouted at this brat not to look down on them, and then ordered the fat spirit with a barrel in his hand to attack. The drunkard began to absorb the liquid from the barrel, and then sprayed alcohol around the space. The guy holding his breath turned pale, because the smell of alcohol clouded his mind with a dizzy head. The guy realized that this was another kind of manipulation. While the guy was shaking like a real drunk, the girl grinned and told him to get acquainted with their command management. The girl opened her hand, shouted for the ghosts to come out, and 2 ghosts appeared on her 2 sides. On the left side was some kind of mummy, and on the other side was a ghost with a purple aura and 2 axes coming out of his hands. Seeing them, the guy recoiled in despair, saying that she had 2 ghosts of the highest rank. The girl with a gloomy look pointed at the guy and told the bandaged ghost to attack. The mummy struck the ground with its fists. The guy, sweating and staggering, realized that things were bad and began to jump back. While bandages were flying in his direction, the guy began to slap himself so that he would wake up, and while he was not tired of himself, all the bandits raised their thumbs, saying that he was really creepy. At this time, bandages appeared under the guy, and the girl clenched her fists, said that everything was under control. But the guy felt something jumped away, and at that moment 2 bandages appeared from under the ground. The bald man clenched his teeth and asked about how it was possible that the bandaged one missed, and the surprised girl also asked about how the guy realized that her ghost was going to attack. And then she saw that one of the guy's eyes was glowing bloody, and with a cold sweat, smiling, said that it didn't look like everything. Clenching her fists, she ordered her henchmen to attack together, and they nodded. Immediately, all 4 spirits went to the guy, and he opened his hand and pressed the red tattoo, saying that she needed it now. A beautiful girl with a zither appeared in front of the guy, and immediately a melodious sound was heard. Waves of sound flew towards the spirits, which caused them to recoil and freeze right in the sky, and other waves forced the bandits to squeeze their ears and close their eyes. The guy, looking at this, clicked on his other tattoo and thought that he needed to take their lives as soon as possible. Otherwise, as soon as the action of the skill ends, it will be too late. A ghost with a chainsaw appeared in front of the ghosts, who rushed to other ghosts with bloody eyes. The guy, looking at this, screamed for the ghost with the chainsaw to kill them all. All the opponents were now stunned thanks to the music of the ghost with a zither, and the guy looked at the clown girl and thought that the first thing to do was get rid of their leader. Pointing in her direction, the guy ordered the ghost with the chainsaw to deal with them first. The ghost with the chainsaw clicked, but obeyed and ducked right at the people with the chainsaw at the ready. The flame crashed into the ground, giving off a shower of sparks, but the ghost of dreams dragged the hostess aside at the last moment. This of course surprised the guy, and he asked in surprise that it didn't work out. After looking at the ghost from dreams, the guy said that the dark light of the ghost from dreams is a rare passive skill that protects the host. Soon, the ghost from the dreams and the girl leader found themselves shouting the control field of the zither music. The girl, clenching her teeth with a cold sweat, thought that the students not only completed the main test, but also discovered all their skills, figured out the skills of other ghosts. It's amazing. At this time, the guy was thinking that these 3 are strong. It's not so easy to deal with the Imperial Ghost Master. Well, if it didn't work out with her, it might work out with one of these 2. The bald man and the driver, who were still standing clutching their heads, screamed and saw nothing. At this time, a ghost with a chainsaw appeared in front of them. The ghost with the chainsaw raised his chainsaw jerkily, headed in their direction, and seeing this, the girl realized that it was bad and screamed, but it was too late. The bald man decided to use one leg and one arm. The guy clenched his fist, said that it wasn't exactly what he expected, but it would go that way. And then the guy shouted for the ghost with the chainsaw to continue. But he looked at the severed limb with a loving look and drool flowed from his mouth. The guy realized that it was bad, clenched his teeth, shouting to himself that only this was not enough. At the same time, the ghost with the chainsaw put his chainsaw aside and began to devour meat. With a cold sweat, the guy thought that, of course, it was very difficult for a master ghost tracker of the first rank to control ghosts. Meanwhile, the actions of the mantra skill came to an end and the spirit with the zither stopped. But the spirits came to their senses. At the same time, the thunderous voice of the bald man was heard, who noticed that he had one leg missing. Hearing the owner's voice, the spirit drunkard turned around and saw his master screaming in pain and a ghost that was devouring his leg, saying that it was delicious. The ghost with the barrel immediately bent aside the ghost with the chainsaw with the barrel overweight. The barrel crashed into a ghost with a chainsaw, and he dropped his leg and turned gloomy, said that his meat flew off. The ghost with the chainsaw with bloody eyes turned and grabbed with one hand shouted the face of the ghost with the barrel, shouting that how dare this fat man bother him when he is eating meat. A ghost with a chainsaw smeared the head of a drunkard's ghost into splinters. The driver, seeing this, recoiled and began to move away, and the bald man with eyes full of tears screamed in despair. At this time, the clown girl screamed that they were careless. She didn't expect the guy to have 3 ghosts. The girl said that their lives come first and screamed at them to retreat. The driver nodded, and at this time the ghost with bandages sent bandages in the direction of the bald man, while the ghost with a chainsaw enjoyed a meal next to the ghost drunk. Bandages tied the bald man and the driver immediately shouted for him to hold on and help him up. The girl opened the door and ordered them to get into the car and immediately took a taxi. The girl herself, climbing the ghost of dreams, screamed that she remembered the guy and they hadn't finished yet. The guy grinned and said that in their next meeting, she should wear stockings. The girl showed the guy the middle finger, shouted that he was still a goat, and a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 30 points of destruction. The guy wondered where he had seen her, and then he remembered the TV with the girl and shouted that she looked like Gao Shishi. The guy was surprised to say that Gao Shishi is the daughter of the head of the security bureau. She should have as many ghost beads as she wants. Why would she take it away from him? Looking at the phone, the guy said that the more he looks at her, the more confusing it looks. The guy looked at the ghost of the bloody eye flying nearby and asked what he thought about it. Blood Eye thought about it and said that the similarity of their facial features is 80%. The guy smiled, raised his thumb and said that it was professional, because of which the bloody eye rather folded its tentacles. Frowning, the guy wondered what it meant that the daughter of the head of the security bureau wanted to rob him. The guy clenched his fists and thought that this could not be, because didn't they say in the news that she was very strong? He would not be able to overcome her. The guy raised one eyebrow and said that if he didn't understand, then he didn't care about her. He immediately recalled the tracker, and then a golden bead fell to the ground. Picking it up, the guy smiled and thought that he was still in a big plus. But then, looking around, the guy wondered what kind of place it was that screamed. And then he realized that he did not know the way and shouted that since they had brought him here, they would not want to bring him back. No, and how can he go home now? At this time, someone screamed in another part of the city. There was a taxi parked next to the old house and a bald bandit was moaning inside the house whose leg was torn off. The nurse sewed up his leg while he was screaming that he was in pain and the clown girl was watching this. The girl, anxiously clenching her fists, told him to hold on because almost everything. The bald man apologized with regret and said that he turned out to be a useless burden for her. The girl with concern told him not to talk like that because she was very grateful to them, shouted that they were following her. How can she blame him for anything after that? It's all their bad luck that's to blame. The guy was too strong. At this time, the driver standing next to her said that if she had a sister who deprived her of a normal life, they would not have lost. The girl bowed her head regretfully, telling him not to talk about it. Next to them, a ghost with bandages brought a basin of water and handed it to the girl. The girl began to wash her face and clenching her fists and teeth, she said that next time she would take revenge on that guy. In the dorm, the door of one of the rooms opened and an irritated guy came in, shouting that he had to get here because of this damned car. Taking off his shoes, the guy immediately threw himself into bed. Yawning, the guy with a sleepy expression said that he really wanted to sleep, and when he wanted to close his eyes, voices immediately rang out above him. Someone shouted that he loved when he was walking through dark alleys, and another voice said that he could not say the same. The guy opened his bloodshot eyes from lack of sleep and, clenching his teeth, stood up and shouted, asking why it was so loud if it was night outside. Twisting his face, the guy thought that on weekdays the landlord never forbids his son to sing at the top of his voice, and requests to do it quieter are completely ignored. And then the guy grinned and said that now it was his turn and summoned a ghost with a zither and then quietly told her to wait, and then did everything. The spirit nodded and was already in another room, where there were 3 and one of them was singing karaoke loudly, and the other 2 were clapping their hands, while the boy was singing loudly that there are heroes only on the bright side. His father, clapping his hands happily, said that his son was amazing, and her mate smiled and said that he was the best singer in the area. The guy joyfully raised his hand and shouted that he was the best, and suddenly it became cold and the woman frowned realizing this. Turning to the window, she wondered why it suddenly became cooler, and then clutching her husband's hand, she asked that there were no ghosts right there. The man told her not to worry, all the ghosts had long been exterminated by the security bureau. Their son said he thinks it's just starting to rain. Laughing loudly, the man said that what they were talking about at all, they listened to him or not. The woman said that of course they listened, and then she told her son to continue, and he started singing, saying that baby, how beautiful she is. Suddenly the light turned off and the family looked up in surprise. The woman immediately clung to her husband in fright, and the man doubtfully said that if there was no electricity, then why was the TV working? The boy looked up in surprise. Suddenly, a woman with a tremor pointed at the TV and shouted that there was a ghost woman. All at once recoiled from fright and the woman hid behind the man, and the boy behind his mother and shouted for them to turn off the TV faster. Soon the TV went off and the guy said that everything was fine now, and the woman sighed with relief and asked about how they were. The man said with concern that it was just a picture on TV, so there are no ghosts here. There should only be an image on the TV, there was no ghost there. Suddenly the woman and the boy turned pale and the woman pointed in the direction of the man, said that behind him. The man turned pale all over cautiously and saw a girl with bloody eyes. She asked with a terrible coldness in her voice about who dared to sing in the middle of the night, and who dared to wake her up. The whole family jumped back in horror, but the guy fell asleep happy. In front of the guy at this time, one notification after another popped up, and they all said that he had received 60 points of destruction. So 3 notifications have already surfaced. And soon the satisfied guy looked at the ghost of a girl who, having become energy, fit into his hand. Immediately there were shouts from upstairs. The father of the family shouted at his son, saying that he had only grown up attracted by his singing. He would now kill him. He was crying and saying that he would not sing anymore. The guy was walking down the corridor with a package and saw a man and a boy ahead. Smiling, the guy greeted the landlord and said that yesterday they were very lively. And then he asked if there was a party yesterday. Smiling maliciously, the guy asked the kid what was wrong with his face, was it really his? The boy turned around and grabbed his cheek and said nothing, but the middle-aged man sighed heavily and asked him not to even mention it, because yesterday they encountered a ghost. Smiling, the guy asked if there were ghosts here, and then he said that it was probably all because of their son singing, so they brought the ghost of music upon themselves. The man got even more angry from this and, kicking his son on the back, screamed with swollen veins, asking who asked him to sing. The poor guy staggered back with a cry and fell to the ground. The man then looked at Lin Mo and asked him if he was well versed in all this, and then asked if he could help them deal with the ghost. They can't sleep at night now because of him. Scratching his head, the guy looked away and said that it was certainly easier than easy, because it was just a small ghost of music. And then, raising one eyebrow, he remembered aloud that he still owed rent for 5 months. A man with dark circles under his eyes raised his hand and said that none of this was necessary. There is no need to return anything at all. The guy happily smiled and said that then he would look. After a while, already in the homeowner's house, a guy with a grin on his face was throwing salt back and forth while the homeowner's family was watching this. After he covered everything with salt, he began to drink from the cape and then splashed water everywhere, saying that it was necessary to add water. Of course, it was behind all this that the family of homeowners looked with surprise after the guy finished. He said that he got rid of the ghost of music, but they should no longer sing in the middle of the night. The father of the family smiled cordially and raised his thumb, and while his son was looking sideways with displeasure, he said that the guy had done a great job and he was very cool. When Lin Mo left the apartment, his phone vibrated and the surprised guy picked it up and saw a notification from the chubby. He asked Lin Mo where he was. He should prepare, because an important matter is coming soon. The guy wrote that he was picking up the food, and that the chubby one waited a little. Looking for the right application, the guy found the Glory of the Dead game and thought that Puffy wanted him to play Glory of the Dead with him. This is a fairly popular yoke, which is very similar to the one that Lin Mo played in his past life. In his previous life, Lin Mo played very well. Such games are quite easy to manage. The guy came into the room, sat down at the table and went into the game and told the chubby guy that they were starting. And in the game, the guy realized that the game is exactly the same. After that, he found a bloody ghost eye in the game and thought that this was a good chance to get acquainted with his other skills. Soon, a new notification popped up on the phone, saying the bloody eye of the ghost had completed 5 kills. The guy went into the game and told someone not to pretend, because he had already checked the golden gun. His results were not particularly good. There was a commotion in the chat, after the guy's message that he would look again. The golden gun wrote that the bloody eye of the ghost had committed 5 murders. Immediately the black pudgy sent his message that the golden gun was very strong. He had to play with it. Some ghost girl said that they should not lose sight of him, they only need a victory. The guy reading this shouted at them to stop pretending, because he checked the golden gun and the results were not very good. Then Lin Mo added that they hadn't seen the real master in action yet and started playing. He said that at the second stage you need to help your comrades. In the phone screen, while a group of skeletons were fighting with the mummy, bloody eye, and the lick were standing aside, and at that moment the guy shouted that it was time to act. He immediately used the skill to shoot something at the ghosts, but they jumped away. Seeing this, the guy was surprised to think that the ghosts reacted quite quickly, but it still won't help them. The opponent, the mummy, activated the bandage skill and bandages flew towards the bloody eye of the ghost. The guy saw this and grinned and thought that the lights dared to fight back, but unfortunately Lin Mo had already predicted their further actions. The guy immediately applied his other skill Blood Eye Ghost, namely Bite. The bloody eye in the screen shot at the mummy of the ghost and he died, and the guy happily said that the first blood was shed. At this time, in another place, the girl, enraged, screamed with bloody eyes that she was so infuriated by this bloody eye of a ghost, she definitely needed to take revenge on him. At this time, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. The surprised guy wondered where these points came from, and then after looking at the game, he asked that the opponent in the game might be enraged, so he got points of destruction. From the realization of this fact, the guy smiled maliciously, and said that he had found a way to make a fortune. Looking at the bandaged man, the guy said that he was coming and that he was overtaken by more blows from the bloody eye of the ghost. Soon a new notification popped up from the phone, saying that the guy had achieved a fun murder, which is a special murder and then a simple murder. Time after time, the bloody eye of the ghost was waning of the bandaged ghost. A new notification appeared in the game, talking about unstoppable murders, and notification after notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. Thus, he received a notification as many as 8 times. Seeing her score of victories, the girl turned pale and thought that this player was completely sick or something. All he does is kill her. She shuddered and screamed that the guy was here again. She needed to become a super ghost. Soon, a notification about his victory appeared in front of the guy on the phone, and throwing the phone, the guy stretched cheerfully said that yes, during the game he managed to earn 100 points. The owner of the bandaged ghost was too prone to anger. Suddenly a new notification came to the phone, and when the guy looked, he read that he had received a friend request from an emotionless one. When the guy saw it, smiling, the guy said that it was the owner of the bandaged, and then clicking on reject, the guy said that he was not stupid enough to accept her as a friend, and then listened to him being swore at. After his actions, a new notification popped up in front of the guy again, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. Laughing, the guy said that it was good. Then the guy remembered the game and said that the second skill, the bloody eye of the ghost, can not only be released from control, but also reflect the attack. In a real battle, this ability would be very useful to him. Taking out his ghost beads, the guy said he was using them to level up the bloody ghost eye. The guy used the elevation and the red aura of the ghost beads began to soak into his eye. Soon a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that the loyalty of the bloody ghost eye had increased by 5%, and its current value was 20%. After that, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that the ghost level has been raised, and the current ghost level is high. Immediately after, a new notification popped up saying the ghost level has risen again, and now she is at the level of a ferocious novice ghost. Smiling, the guy brought out the window with the bloody eye of the ghost in front of him and said that he had increased by 2 levels, and then after looking at the new skill, he decided to activate it now. Immediately after, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had spent 500 points of destruction to activate the second skill, the bloody eye of the ghost. After the skill was opened, and the description said that the retaliatory strike, level 1, reflects the enemy's attack in his own direction, and consumes 50 energy. The cooldown of the same skill is 10 seconds. The guy, looking at the window, shouted in surprise that the recovery time was too long. After that, the guy went to the mirror and looking at his bloody eye said that the reflection effect is pretty cool, so the rest is not so important. The guy approached the mirror and looked more closely at his gaze, smiling. Thought that one skill symbolizes an inferior ghost, but already 2 skills of a ferocious ghost. The higher the level, the cooler the ghost becomes. And what if at the last level he turns out to be reincarnated? At that moment, someone knocked on the door to his room and the guy, looking at the door with a question, wondered about the coma that it was necessary to visit at such an hour. The first rays of the sun were already rising over the house where the guy rented a room, and the birds were singing. The guy opened the door and asked, with furrowed eyebrows, what was the matter with the bald old man who was standing in front of him. The old man said that he was from Baiyang University, and he would like to offer the guy a place in their university. This old man's name was Jai Feng and he was a master of the 6th rank ghost tracker. The guy greeted the old man with an awkward smile thinking that the head of the university personally came to him. He's never heard of this university, is everything okay? After that, the guy told the old man to come in and let him into the house. The old man came into the room smiling and then turned around and asked if the guy was doing well in the Lin Mo family. The guy, surprised by such an unexpected question, nodded and then asked why he was asking about it. The old man smiled and handed him a piece of paper and said that he just asked, and then said that he just wanted to remind them that their Baiyang University is ready to provide the guy with free tuition and accommodation, so he can save a lot of money for his family. This of course greatly surprised the guy and he said that it was really cool and took a piece of paper. The leaflet said that Baiyang University covers an area of 16,000 and it is the largest university in the province. They also have all kinds of necessary specialties and each teacher is not lower than the 6th rank. Reading this, the guy couldn't help but say that this is a pretty good university. Thinking about it, the guy smiled and thought that the tuition fee at Mikage is 100,000 yuan a year, plus the cost of accommodation and meals. The family will have a very difficult time, and here everything is offered for free. It is very profitable. The old man, hearing this, happily slapped the form on the table and shouted that he would personally enroll the guy as soon as he registered, immediately get into the elite group, while the old man thought to himself that the job was done. While the guy was looking at the form with disbelief, the old man smiled and handed him a pencil and told him to fill it faster. What was he waiting for? Why doesn't the guy sign the application right now? The guy stopped right before signing and the old man asked him what was the matter, why he hesitated, and then the guy turned around and asked the old man how many graduates they had. From this question, the old man turned pale and shuddered. But then, pretending to smile, he said that they have a very deep foundation, and some crusts are not so important. Grinning, the old man added that they were fighting for the safety of people, so the guy should not pay attention to such trifles. The guy already looked suspiciously at the old man, raising one eyebrow, asked that the old man's university was not a diploma factory. The old man turned pale all over, but then he came to himself, clapped his hands and shouted with mock indignation that their university was the largest in the whole province. Outstanding graduates of their university can scare a guy with just a glance. The guy looking at this bald old man told him to name the number. With a cold sweat, the old man said that it was Jiang Mumu, some kind of Liu, and then awkwardly smiled and said that he even reminded them because of their number. At this time, there was a confluence of heels and soon a formidable girl with glasses appeared in the office and folded her hands under her prominent breasts, said that the old man could not remember because they were not there. Smiling, the woman with glasses said that this college occupies a large area of which 14,000 is wasteland, isn't it? The old man turned his head away and seeing this guy was speechless. And then the old man suddenly looked at the woman and said that their teachers had a rank no lower than the 6th. The girl grinned and said that because they have only one teacher and that's him. From this, the old man turned even paler, and the guy was very surprised and looked at the old man, asked that he was alone there. The girl took off her glasses and exposed her beautiful brown eyes, and holding out her hand, asked to be allowed to introduce herself, and then said that she was a teacher at Zufeng University, Ammon. The guy, squeezing her hand, looked with surprise at the number of the woman's spirits, of which there were as many as 4. Then he also said hello and introduced himself as Lin Mo. The girl, holding out a leaf from her purse, said that she had come for it. Their university ranked 1st in the province and 10th in the country, and they invited Lin Mo to their place. The guy looked at the shining gold leaf and the gray leaf of the old man, and at this time the old man, crying, said that it was over. The old man walked up to the guy and took the sheet from his hand, which surprised him, and added awkwardly that there was nothing wrong with that, because he understands that any normal person will choose Zhu Feng. Of course, he is sorry to miss such a nugget, but there is nothing to be done if he still has a desire. The old man will be glad to cooperate. After these words, the old man regretfully said that it was time for him and left. While Lin Mo was studying the sheet passed by the girl, her phone vibrated and she began to take it out. The girl saw that it was the Minister of Education calling, and when she picked it up, a loud voice rang out, demanding that they immediately cancel Lin Mo's application for admission. The woman recoiled from this, and the old man looked thoughtfully in her direction, as did the guy. The girl, not understanding what the matter was, asked the minister about it, and he said that the head of the Public Security Bureau Gao and Deputy Sun ordered all universities in the province to refuse Lin Mo admission. From such a guy with a question looked in the direction of the girl, and she was very surprised. The guy thoughtfully remembered Sun Lai 51 and thought that maybe it was her dad who tried. If it is blocked, it turns out that she becomes the winner. The woman, enraged, asked why she should give up the guy, and the voice on the other side of the phone said that it didn't concern her. They didn't need Lin Mo anymore, and there are enough people without him. Then the phone was hung up. The girl still wanted to talk, but no one took the troop. Then Ammon asked the guy if he had done something, and the guy indifferently sat down on the table, said that she forgot about it. The girl wearing glasses said that he was blacklisted by all universities in their province. They bury such a talent. She decided to submit an application to the Department of Education. She will achieve at least some kind of indulgence. After looking at the guy, the girl said that it could certainly be difficult. The guy, looking at the comforting gesture, the girl asked if it was impossible to study independently. The girl immediately frowned and said that it was unacceptable. The university gives the right to join the community of Masters of the Pathfinder. If you do not study anywhere, Lin Mo does not have such a right. Besides, without theoretical knowledge, even a guy can't get a certificate. Not a single team of Ghostbusters has grown up will want to cooperate with him. The girl smiled and said that if he came up with something and found out how everything could be changed, then luck would be on his side. The guy frowned, regretfully said that it was not possible. Why should he apologize? It wasn't his fault. At this time, the clapping of an old man who was smiling contentedly was heard. The two looked in his direction, and the old man shouted with fervor about who said that the guy could not enter the university. Taking out the form, he added that their Bai Yong would accept it. The guy was surprised to ask whether Bai Yong University gives the right to enter the realm of ghosts, to which he began to stroke his goatee with a smug smile and said that of course it was, because their university is recognized in the province. So everything is possible. The surprised guy pointed to the girl and said that they had just said that he could not go anywhere, right? Grinning, the old man said that Bai Yong University never plays by the rules. He does not take their remarks seriously. While saying this, the old man looked at the girl who was pretending to smile with a grin. The guy smiled, folded his palm into a fist, and told the director that he was going to join them. Smiling, the old man held out a piece of paper, asking the guy if he would sign up or not. The guy nodded, and then asked if the training was still free or not. The director smiled and said that, of course, tuition and accommodation fees will not be charged. The guy raised his thumb and said that he didn't need more. The old man joyfully said that all the dormitories are high-rise buildings of the same color, and the area is very large, so he should not worry and sign. Looking at this, the girl barely restrained her rage, clenching her fist and trembling with anger. Finally, the guy signed the paper, and the old man happily congratulated him on joining his Bai Yong University. The guy smiled and thought that now he is a student of Bai Yong University, because he was only taken there. Well, isn't it great? Then the old man asked the guy if his classmates wanted to enroll with him. If he brought anyone, the old man would reward the guy with a ghost bead. The guy grinned and said that it was interesting, and then immediately called Puffy and told him that they should go to Bai Yong University together. Looking at this, Ammon thought with concern that the new star had just been buried by the security bureau. The ghost market was filled with people, and the store signs were glowing with neon colors. Lin Mo was also walking in the same place, and one of the sellers called him and said that he was selling a hungry ghost. Coming up to the counter, the guy looked at the ghost in the cage and asked about what his peculiarity was. The seller said that the first skill of this ghost is called a feast, and with its help it is possible to destroy ghost hunters whose level has grown lower. And his second skill, the curse of hunger, creates marks on the ghost of the master ghost tracker, causing the enemy to have a hunger effect that reproduces control. The ghost looked like a hungry zombie and screamed that he wanted to eat. Looking at him, the guy folded his hands and thought that the skill of this ghost has no zest, and most importantly that the limit of contracts has been exhausted. Only by spending points of destruction, the guy will be able to get the opportunity to conclude a contract. The old man with a mustache smiled and said that since the brother was studying, he would sell it on the cheap, only 500,000. The guy grinned at this seller and thought that the market price of this ghost does not exceed 100,000. He just wants to cash in on the student. The guy said that the ghost is impressive, but he doesn't have enough money, maybe the seller will make a discount. Scratching his mustache, he said that so be it. He would make a discount of 100,000 and sell the ghost for 400,000. The guy smiled and asked the seller if he was familiar with the ghost slamming the cage of the ladder. From such a question, the seller was perplexed and said that of course he knows how otherwise. The guy, madly looking at the seller, said that if he doesn't really know anything about him, how can he take it? From such a terrible face, not only the seller recoiled, but also the ghost himself. A new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 20 points of destruction. Making a thoughtful look, the guy said that with this money he could buy a lot of worthy ghostbusters, not this one. And what if he eats? Whether his skills will change, this is definitely not suitable. From the sight of the guy, the ghost immediately began to strive back. The guy was still asking questions, like, is the ghost exactly the way the seller describes it? The seller, enraged, shouted for him to get out, and the guy grinned at the new notification that popped up, saying that he had received 100 points of destruction. The guy leaving said that what an impatient owner, and the old man, the seller, at this time held his heart. At this time, two people with purple hair were walking in another place of the ghost market. The guy whose hand was held by the pouting son Lai Lai, looking at his sister, said that dad had dealt with the kid who offended her. Why is she still unhappy? After all, he dared to offend a person of the security bureau, so he must bear responsibility. This young man was Sun Mo's brother, Sun Lai Lai. He is a sophomore at Zufeng University. The irritated girl, releasing waves of negativity, said that she just wanted to punch him herself. Suddenly she noticed something and saw a merchant angry next to the guy and shouted to her brother that she had found him. Sun Mo gloomily told his sister that he would avenge her. At this time, the guy smiled and pointed to the bead in his hand and told the owner to just look at his ghost beads. They are cracked. For such 400,000, a slightly inflated price, doesn't it seem to him like at the expense of 20 yuan? Hearing such a price, the seller paled and clutched his heart and said that 20, and not even thousands, but with such figures this young guy would bring him to his grave. At this time, suddenly someone grabbed a bead from Lin Mo's hands and told the seller to sell it at the original price. He wants it. The surprised guy looked in that direction and saw Sun Mo and Sun Lai Lai. Sun Mo, looking at the guy with contempt, said that he should not come to the market without money, only to disgrace the title of Master of Ghosts. The guy frowned and thought that Sun Lai Lai was here again. Did they really want to take him out? Well, he would still see who is who. Sun Mo smiled and handed the gold card to the seller and said that he would pay with a card. Unlike some, he does not want to desecrate the status of the Master of Ghosts. The seller smiled and said that it was great. He would give it for 600,000. The guy, pointing to the bead to Sun Mo's surprise, said that he was desecrating the status of the Ghost Master because he bought the ghost beads for 600,000. But it's cracked. More than 40% of the ghost energy has flowed out of it 100%. Even 300,000 will be too much for it. But the seller, well done, still found someone to whom you can sell such a trinket. From such words, Sun Mo looked at the ghost bead with doubt and cold sweat. Then, with an irritated grin, Sun Mo said that he was doing what he wanted. He wants to buy ghost beads with cracks, but he doesn't want to. What difference does it make to the guy? Unlike Lin Mo, he can afford everything. Sun Lai Lai also frowned and chuckled, saying that this was exactly the case. The guy grinned and said that was it really so, then turning around, he joyfully shouted to all the sellers to get their cracked ghost beads. After all, someone wants to buy them out here. From this, the brother and sister were shocked, but the seller was pleased and immediately took out boxes with cracked ghost beads. One of the old men said that there were about 30 cracked beads, and the other old man said that they were here for 8,600,000, but he would sell for 8 million. Sun Mo recoiled from this, and while the old man was talking, interrupting each other so that he would look at their beads, Sun Lai Lai told her brother to go. At this time, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. The old man also asked Sun Mo that he hadn't bought anything. Maybe he would come back. Lin Mo grinned and thought that it wouldn't be so easy to leave. He immediately pointed at these two and shouted, asking if they were not the children of the deputy head of the security bureau. They probably got the money from their daddy. Besides, wouldn't selling them goods earn them trust? They can't ruin Deputy Sun's reputation. Sellers and just onlookers hearing this began to look at the brother and sister, wondering if they were really the children of Deputy Sun. Isn't it interesting? Someone asked these two to buy goods from him, and someone just looked. Sun Lai Lai and Sun Mo, enraged, shouted the guy's name, but they were already surrounded by a crowd of onlookers. Someone asked if there was really an excess of money in the Sun family. They probably planned to transform the cracked beads somehow. Someone else supported the first, and the third said that it could really be so, because the reputation of the Sun family is good. The fourth also said that he also thinks. Someone else saw Sun Mo and said that wasn't it the son of Deputy Sun? He is a talented second-year student at Zufeng University. If they say it will recycle cracked beads, then it is. Someone else nodded, saying that of course it is, because the reputation of the Sun family is at stake. From all this, Sun Mo turned pale and did not know what to do, and in the end, gritting his teeth, he picked up a gold card and said that he was buying all 8 million beads. The old man smiled broadly and said that this gentleman was a very good man. But his beads. Sun Mo, looking at this box with a pale face, thought that all these 8 million beads are nothing more than simple garbage. If his father finds out, he will be killed. Sun Lai Lai irritably told her brother that this revelation was all because of that scumbag. Lin Mo himself was happily rubbing his hands looking at a new notification from the system about the fact that he had received 200 points of destruction. It was great. At this time, clenching his fists, Sun Mo approached the guy saying that it was all because of him. Did he really want to die? Sun Lai Lai folded her hands and asked her brother to teach this guy a lesson. The guy yawned boringly and asked why they didn't thank him. Didn't they want to purchase cracked ghost beads? He only helped them. Looking at the guy, Sun Mo pointed at him and shouted that he was challenging him. Hearing this, one of the onlookers that he, a sophomore, calls Lin Mo, who just graduated from school. They are on completely different levels. Someone else from the onlookers added that he must be hungry for revenge. Something made Mr. Sun angry. The guy grinned and said that Sun Mo is cool. He, a sophomore, is challenging a high school graduate. Does he really want to show his abilities at the expense of the guy? Sun Mo frowned, handed over a box of beads and said that if he won, the guy would give all the beads to him. Sun Lai Lai was also annoyed. Sun Mo held out the box in his direction, and the guy looked at the box with surprise, thinking that despite the fact that they are often covered with cracks, you can sell them for at least 2 million, so why wouldn't he agree? Sun Lai Lai, looking at the guy, asked if he wasn't even afraid, and the guy grinned and said that he accepted the challenge. After a while, 2 people were standing in the ring. On one side is Sun Mo, and on the other is Lin Mo. While these two were just standing there, one of the onlookers shouted that he was Lin Mo, so Lin Mo should punch this kid from Zufeng University. Someone else shouted that Sun Mo was Jiang Ming's favorite student, a teacher from their school. To defeat him is the dream of every schoolboy. At this time, Gao Shishi's twin sister was also among the crowd, and when he saw the guy, he got excited and thought that maybe he could even win and joyfully raised her hand and shouted for the guy to defeat this guy from Zufeng University. At this time, Sun Mo himself grinned and began to open his hand and said that they should not blame him if he crippled the guy. Chuckling, Sun Mo remembered the guy's indifferent sigh and thought that this guy had already hurt him once, so he would not allow it anymore. There would be no shame on his part in losing to a sophomore. Lin Mo himself said that they should stop talking and start. Immediately, the guy clicked on the tattoo with a chainsaw, and energy began to concentrate around his hand. Soon, an enraged ghost with a chainsaw appeared in front of the guy and with bloody eyes, he shouted meat and rushed towards Sun Mo. Sun Mo himself was surprised, because it was not a simple ghost, but a ferocious ghost. Dodging the dust, the guy jumped back and touched one of the tattoos on his arm and grinned and said that his ghosts would be stronger. Immediately, 3 ghosts appeared in front of the guy. A drowned ghost, a ferocious level with a green aura, a ghost struck by electricity, also a ferocious level that had a blue aura, as well as a giant, a ferocious level with a purple aura. Looking at these ghostbusters, the guy frowned and thought that Sun Mo was not so bad. At this time, one of the onlookers with glasses said that a giant acts as a tank, a ghost struck by electricity acts as a magician, and a drowned person controls a person. It was a formation that was ready for both attack and defense, and really amazing. The guy better give up, there's no point trying against that. At this time, the girl with white hair thoughtfully said that despite the fact that the current ghost and the drowned one have strong skills, it takes a lot of time to recharge them. The student will win if he can repel the attack. Hearing the girl, some old man asked with interest if the girl was her boyfriend, since she was so protective of him. The girl blushed and shouted that this was not the case at all. What was this guy talking about at all? Averting her eyes, the girl said that she just didn't want the person from Zufeng University to win. At this time, on the field, Lin Mo ordered the drowned ghost to use the relaxation skill, and he furiously shouted and released some liberties. The skill fell under the skill and immediately closed his eyes. He felt like he was getting seasick and he was underwater. Holding his breath, the guy thought that this was really an exiled control skill. At this time, Lin Mo grinned and said that the water supply time was 2 minutes. He doesn't know if Lin Mo will be able to stand up. Lin Mo, holding his breath, thought that he had to deal with everything in a couple of minutes and ordered the ghost with a chainsaw to attack. A ghost with a chainsaw immediately appeared next to Lin Mo and swung his chainsaw, and Lin Mo recoiled and summoned his giant ghost. The giant immediately appeared in front of the guy and began to inhale air. His body began to strengthen, and when the chainsaw crashed into his stomach, nothing happened to the ghost. Lin Mo grinned and asked if the guy was really so strong, and Lin Mo himself was underwater at that moment. The guy shouted loudly, laughing that he wasn't finished yet, and then ordered the ghost struck by electricity to use the deadly current skill. Seeing this, Lin Mo managed to avoid the blow at the last moment, but he was still gasping for breath. At this time, a ghost with a chainsaw roared from the other side, and looking in that direction, he saw that the ghost with a chainsaw had received a wound and some kind of red aura was coming out of the wound. At this time, the passive skill ghost with a chainsaw was activated. In the description of the Bloodlust skill, it was written that as the blood ghost with a chainsaw decreases, each damage received increases the attack power by 2 units. Because of the skill, the ghost with the chainsaw, enraged with renewed vigor, raised the chainsaw and began to tear the giant apart. The shelter gushed out like a fountain, and the giant ghost himself went crazy with pain. Seeing how the life of the giant ghost was flowing away, Lin Mo could not believe his eyes and wondered how such a thing was even possible. The guy thought to himself that the ghost with the chainsaw suddenly became fast and shouted that he would deal with him first and pointed in the direction of Lin Mo. The ghost who died of electricity began to release lightning. Jumping away from the discharges, the guy stopped abruptly and ducked right a second before a new batch of lightning struck the ground right where he was. Jumping away, the guy immediately ran towards the ghost with a chainsaw and the giant who was being cut. Behind the giant, of course, was Lin Mo himself. Lin Mo, dissatisfied, shouted so that the ghost struck by electricity would wane Lin Mo faster, and flashes of lightning flew after the guy. The guy himself, smiling contentedly, began to jump away very quickly from the current discharges, eluding all the blows. The blonde girl liked this performance and she clenched her fists and shouted that Lin Mo was handsome. Let him beat this guy from Zufeng University. At this time, the bespectacled old man standing next to him looked at this girl and thought that this girl was really very energetic. It was Zheng Shan, the Deputy Minister of Education, and the 6th rank Ghost Master. Then the old man looked contentedly at the guy who jumped away from another discharge of electricity right now. The old man thought that wasn't it Lin Mo, who was blacklisted everywhere. Yes, he's fighting on equal terms with Lin Mo, and he's pretty good. But despite this, Lin Mo is still slightly above the guy in skills. It's okay if Lin Mo fails to win. The old man folded his hands and said contentedly that Lin Mo had already worked out his contract ghost skills. Lin Mo was still far from him. The white-haired girl who heard these words could not resist and grinned and told the old man that he was really so sure that Lin Mo would lose. She doesn't think so. Why don't they make a bet? How about a green bead as a win? The old man grinned and asked that he was not interested in arguing with the child, because he did not want to look stupid in front of people. The girl grinned and clicked and teasingly said that because of his uncertainty, he was looking for excuses. He understands it himself, because Lin Mo has every chance to win. The bespectacled old man laughed and said that this girl was so brave. Since everything turned out that way, then he could argue. If the girl wins, he will give the green bead, but if she loses, she will have to pay him. The girl happily agreed and thought to herself about what was wrong with that. A green bead will cost 100,000 and it's worth it. The old man looked at the girl and said that she was smart, but he thought to himself about why she looked so much like Gao Shishi. Above the rank, someone's voice was heard saying that everyone should watch, because here a schoolboy copes with a sophomore. At this time, in the ring itself, Lin Mo was moving towards Lin Mo with a grin. At this time, Lin Mo ordered the drowned ghost to use his sea plant skill. The ghost who was standing next to him began to come forward, and under him the earth began to go in waves like water and green algae began to come out from there. Zelen rose up and rushed towards the guy. Seeing this, the guy thought that if he got into them, most likely, he would not be able to get out. Despite this, the guy bent down on Lin Mo and he clenched his teeth and asked if the guy really decided to die, because if he gets into the plants, he will come to an end. At this time, Lin Mo looked up and one of his eyes turned bloody and began to absorb Lin Mo's mind. Sun Mo turned pale and trembled, and cold sweat began to roll down his face. At this time, the algae caught up with Lin Mo and grabbed him. It seemed to Sun Mo that space itself was fluctuating and everything in his head was spinning. But Lin Mo had almost turned into a cocoon of algae. Grinning, the pale Sun Mo said that the guy was immobilized, and then added that he thought the guy was strong. It looks like he was wrong. Lin Mo was calm and looking with one open eye at the opponent told him to see which one of them could not move yet. Sun Mo, at this time, fell to the ground and trembled. He turned pale all over and asked about why he couldn't move. Suddenly he looked up and saw a completely free Lin Mo who was looking down at him and asked about what the hell was going on here. Suddenly, the guy remembered that moment with a bloody look and said that this was the technique of the second skill of Lin Mo's ghost. Was it really a reflection? The guy fell into illusions. Lin Mo directed the bloody eye of the ghost towards him, thereby distorting his consciousness. But he was caught in his net. The guy sat down next to him and grinned and said that Sun Mo was too stupid. At this time, the audience was rejoicing, and the white-haired girl was especially fiercely rejoicing. But the old bespectacled man was dissatisfied and folded his hands and looked at the duelists. Looking at the ring, he thought that the reflection of the bloody eye of the ghost is very powerful. You need to look at the enemy at the moment when he is going to attack. Self-taught without any training. Looking at the calm Lin Mo, the old man thought that such talents appear once in 100 years. At this time, the white-haired girl smiled broadly and told the old man to look at the fact that the guy from Zufeng University had lost. The old man smiled awkwardly, and at that moment Sun Lai Lai, who was standing on the other side, irritably asked the girl who told her that it was so. It's still not over. The white-haired woman grinned and said that she shouldn't scream like that. Sun Lai Lai clenched her fists and told her to just wait. Immediately, she shouted to her brother to use the joint skills. Looking at the screaming sister, the guy smiled and thought that the recently worked out joint techniques were intended for the competition of 100 universities. He did not think that he would use them in a battle with a high school student. Entangled in vines, a guy with a gloomy aura clenched his teeth and shouted that this was all and began to absorb energy. The giant standing behind him turned pale all over and began to emit an aura, and then just burst. And seeing the corpses of the corpse, the guy turned pale and shouted what kind of biochemical attack the corpse was. The guy, looking around, thought that something was definitely wrong here, where the drowned ghost had gone, and suddenly a hand rose from the ground right in front of the guy, which caused him to recoil screaming. The drowned ghost rose directly from under him, which caused the guy to recoil in fright, but did not have time to jump away, because the ghost grabbed him, giggling nastily. After the ghost caught the guy, they both began to drown in the water. The guy clenched his teeth and kicked in every possible way, but the ghost did not let him escape. Having already drowned under the water, the guy with swollen veins thought that things were bad. The drowned ghost grinned and said that the guy would not be able to escape, and the guy turned pale and clenched his teeth. While the ghost was telling the guy to die, the guy himself was cursing the damn ghost. At this time, Sun Mo ordered his second ghost to use his thunderstorm skill, and an electric cluster appeared over the guy and the drowned ghost. Looking up, the guy thought that it looked like the thunderstorm was caused by the joint work of the ghost of Sun Mo. First, he resorted to the giant ghost to generate water into which the drowned ghost plunges, thereby taking the guy under control, so if a lightning strike hits him, it will be the end. Looking at the ghost of the deceased due to electricity, the guy thought that this was really a good reception. Lin Mo was trembling all over, because the reflection had absorbed too much energy from him. Now it is enough for only 2 skills. Looking at the drowned man, the guy thought that using the illusion of bloody hell, he would be able to avoid the attack. But the storm would strike again, so the result would be 0, in which case, he would use the mantra. The guy took out his hand, pressed on his tattoo, and purple energy burst out of him, and feeling the energy of Sun Mo wondered where this energy came from, and raising his head saw a ghost with a zither. The ghost girl stood pacified, and immediately Lin Mo ordered her to start, and immediately music started playing and Sun Mo felt that he froze. The energy rushed towards Sun Mo and he was struck by paralysis. All the veins on his body tensed, and looking up dazedly, he thought that instead of defending himself, Lin Mo directed an attack at him. He was really sick in the head. At this time, a ghost with a chainsaw rushed towards him, and seeing this, Sun Mo thought that he could not move. He immediately shouted for the giant to protect him, and a giant appeared right in front of him with a gaping hole in his stomach. A ghost with a chainsaw tore the giant to pieces and pushed him away. Sun Mo, seeing the giant, turned pale all over, but the ghost with the chainsaw was pleased and shouted that human meat was waiting for him. Turning pale, the guy remembered Lin Mo's grin and thought that he was definitely sick in the head, because he wanted to die together. He has a great future ahead of him. It would be a shame to lose to a high school student. He immediately shouted to the ghost struck by electricity to attack the ghost with a chainsaw. Lightning flew at the ghost with a chainsaw that was already ready to strike Lin Mo. Lightning struck him in the back and a mist of blood flew from the place of impact. The blow was thrown away by a ghost with a chainsaw, and seeing this, Lin Mo grinned and said, "Lin Mo, did he really think that he could deceive him?" Lin Mo. Clearly Lin Mo thinks too much about himself. There's only one winner here and that's him. The guy, looking with a bloody eye at the enemy, thought that the bloody silk thread was a ghost with a chainsaw. And if you also add a passive bloodlust skill, then the attack power should be 10 times greater than before. It's time for him to fight back. Looking at the ghost with the chainsaw, he shouted for him to activate the second skill, Bloodlust. The ghost with the chainsaw got up all overcome with rage and roared through the chainsaw, which went spinning in the direction of Lin Mo. Seeing this, he turned pale and immediately sat down. Bending down, he shouted that this could not be and ran away with difficulty. Another swing missed the guy's head by only a centimeter, and he shouted to the ghost of the electrocuted one to save him. Electricity rattled and Lin Mo, on whom the blue light of lightning fell, looked towards the ghost with a chainsaw. A chainsaw ghost with a chainsaw headed straight towards Lin Mo, and he managed to turn his head with a scream. But pain pierced him, and one ear fell to the ground. The shelter began to flow like a stream, and Lin Mo himself, looking with bloody eyes at Lin Mo, clenched his teeth, and a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 50 points of destruction. The giant ghost and the electrocuted ghost can no longer fight. If the drowned ghost does not return to the defense, then the guy is waiting for the fate of an electrified ghost. At this time, Lin Mo immediately recalled the drowned ghost, and the guy, crunching his neck, breathed a sigh of relief. Behind the ring, joyful voices could be heard shouting that the guy had shown a good trick. Otherwise, Lin Mo would not have been able to get rid of such an attack. Someone else said that he dared to say that even the head of their squad, Zinyu, could not come up with such a plan. Someone else said that he takes back his words. He likes this style of battle. Quite simple, but with the use of brute force. Grinning, the bespectacled man said that there was no limit to the guy's courage. Lin Mo is very good. Compared to him, Lin Mo is much inferior. While Sun Lai Lai was clenching her fists, the white-haired girl joyfully shouted that it was Lin Mo's turn to fight back. There were 5 men standing on the battlefield and 2 lying down. To the side of Lin Mo were 2 of his ghosts, namely the giant ghost and the ghost of talk, and he and his ghost of the drowned man were also standing. On Lin Mo's side, there were his 2 ghosts, namely the ghost with the chainsaw and the ghost with the zither, and of course he himself. Hitting his fist on his palm, the guy grinned and said that now it was his turn. Recoiling, Lin Mo turned pale and asked what the guy was going to do. The guy ordered the big-breasted ghost to use a mantra, and waves of sound flew towards the opponents, which caused them to be overwhelmed with energy. With bloody eyes, looking at this, Lin Mo shouted that he could not lose so easily, and then shouted about rebuff. In the description of the mantra skill, it was said that when the opponent's blood volume is less than 5%, he can be decapitated, and right now the 2 lying ghosts Lin Mo lost their heads. Seeing this, the guy turned pale and shouted that this could not be. Bending over them, the guy with tears in his eyes and with a tremor in his voice said that he worked hard to nurture these ghosts, how much effort was invested, and they just disappeared. From such stress and kickback, Lin Mo spat blood. But a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 200 points of destruction. Looking at the fallen Lin Mo, the guy thought that as soon as the contract ghost disappears, all the damage goes to the owner. Lin Mo is forced to reap the fruits of his actions. After that, a loud voice was heard in the ring saying that Lin Mo was the winner. The crowd of onlookers immediately raised their hands and shouted in delight, and the guy himself began to descend from the ring. He went straight towards Sun Lai Lai and grinned and told her to give the ghost bead. Sun Lai Lai, who was furious, barely restrained her anger and slapped the box on the guy's hand, shouted at Lin Mo to just wait. She'd see how long he'd last with that grin. Smiling contentedly, the guy asked around with the embittered girl and thought about it as if it was his fault. I just wanted to buy beads, but in the end I didn't spend a penny. And he got so many beads, the guy couldn't wait to return. As he walked, everyone shouted that he was cool. At this time, the bespectacled old man adjusted his glasses and thought that the genius studying at Zufeng University could not even defeat a high school student. This is clearly a shame. What was this Gao Lu Sheng and Sun Delai thinking about? They ruined such a talent. Turning around, the old man saw a contented and brightly shining white-haired girl who, stretching out her hand, melodiously said that it was time to give the reward. The old man said that she won and gave her the green bead. A satisfied girl kissing a green bead said that she just earned 100,000, and the old man looked at her with affection. While she was happily passing by, she heard that Sun Lai ordered some bandits to leave the guy, but they didn't leave any traces. The girl frowned and thought that things were bad because they wanted revenge. Now that Lin Mo is exhausted and even got damaged because of the contract ghost, he is definitely not a rival to them. She could not stay away. Walking along contentedly, the guy told his ghosts that they had done a good job today, so he even rewarded them. The ghosts themselves walked behind him. The guy pretty said he bought a ghost with a chainsaw bought meat. Looking at the meat, the ghost with the chainsaw happily began to reach out to him. Then the guy looked at the ghost with a zither. The guy said that he bought her beautiful underwear. From this, the girl irritably folded her hand and said that it was just horror. Then the bloody eye of the ghost pointed at himself, asked about what they bought him. The guy smiled contentedly and said that there was something for him, too. He bought for him one of the best eye drops, a natural balm. Hearing this, the bloody eye of the ghost clenched his teeth and said that the guy was really mocking with his balm. Immediately, a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 40 points of destruction. Grinning, the guy asked about what he really didn't like. The bloody eye of the ghost frowned, and immediately a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that the loyalty of the bloody eye of the ghost had dropped by 5% and was now 15%. Seeing this, the guy immediately raised his hands in remorse and pretended to smile, and said that he was just joking. Let the bloody eye of the ghost look into the bag, where he can get a natural balm. He just bought eye drops. Turning away, the bloody eye of the ghost folded its tentacles and said that it was fine then. And the guy looked at the new notification saying that the loyalty of the bloody eye of the ghost had increased and its current value was 20%. Then the bloody eye of the ghost informed the guy that he was being followed. The guy with a serious face said that he had such a cool eye that he had time to look in all directions. He frowned and said that he was already 200 years old. He was very sensitive to danger. The bloody eye of the ghost asked what they should do, because the guy's energy is exhausted by the bloodlust of the ghost with a chainsaw. It's definitely not going to be easy for them. The guy said that he knows this, and at that moment some kind of goo flew towards the guy and the bloody eye of the ghost told him to jump away. The guy managed to jump away and immediately the corrosive slime of the ghost spread nearby. The purple muck crashed into the ground and began to emit smoke, and looking at it, the guy said that it was dangerous, but the attacker admired, said that the guy had a good reaction. There were two opponents, a man with a cigarette in his mouth and a purple ghost behind him, as well as a blonde man with dark glasses sitting on the roof with his ghost resembling a bat. The one with the cigarette said with a chuckle that it was no wonder that the Sun family ordered it. The blonde man, looking ahead indifferently, said that they just had to avenge brother Sun. Looking at the vampire, the bloody eye of the ghost clenched his teeth and said that it was a vampire ghost. And the guy seeing it said that he had to get out of here. But at this time there was another stomp, and turning around, the guy saw a giant something behind him. Looking at the guy with displeasure and straightening his pants, the giant said that they had nowhere to go. Gritting his teeth, the guy thought that he was surrounded on both sides and asked the ghost if they could fight. The blood-eyed ghost discontentedly said that he was just a ferocious level ghost with 2 skills, but if he became a furious ghost, he definitely wouldn't let them go. But the ghost with the zither screamed his eyes out of despair. The bloody eye of the ghost raised a white flag and offered to surrender immediately, and the ghost with the zither supported him. At that moment, the ghost with the chainsaw screamed that they couldn't. He still had 10% blood. He could still fight. This of course surprised everyone. The guy, looking around, thought that they were surrounded. Even an enemy ghost was flying over his head. Looking ahead with displeasure, the guy thought that it looks like he can only give up. With a dissatisfied face, the blonde man took a cigarette and asked that this guy was the same Lin Mo who provoked the guy from Zufeng University. At this time, the blonde also went down, and a giant in a green t-shirt came up from behind, raising his hands in a sign of reconciliation. The guy asked these brothers that they really want to rob him. Pursing his lips, the guy thought to himself that he could only stall for time. He was not given the second. If the opportunity arises, he will immediately run away. Throwing a cigar, the blonde man said with displeasure that they did not need money. The guy, having made the lips a duck, snuggled up like a girl and said that if they want more, then there are too many of them. From such a statement, everyone was shocked and the blonde almost threw up. A new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 30 points of destruction. The blonde turned pale, said it was an abomination, and the one with the cigar clutched his stomach, clenched his teeth and said that the guy was not talking nonsense. They still need the guy's life. Then the guy with the cigarette said that Lin Mo had offended someone who was clearly not worth it, so now he will part with his life. Immediately, the guy told his distributing ghost to attack and the purple ghost rushed towards the recoiling Lin Mo. The guy clenched his teeth, pressed on one of the tattoos and said that he should not let him get close. Suddenly some bombs fell from the sky and crashed into the ground and began to emit smoke. Coughing, a man with cigarettes clamped his mouth and nose and asked what happened here, and seeing nothing in front of him, he asked about where the guy had gone. Someone else asked where the guy had gone, and another one shouted that he couldn't see anything. At this time, the guy tied his mouth with a bodice and began to climb the rope that descended from the sky. Climbing into the sky, the guy thought about who else it was, but then he decided that it didn't matter, the main thing now was to be saved. When he broke out of this fog, he immediately took off the bodice from his face and saw an acquaintance at the top. It was the white-haired one who was sitting on her night ghost. Holding out her hand, she grinned and said that the guy was thinking too much, he should get up. The guy grabbed her hand and got up, and at that time the guy with the cigarette saw the ghost of night dreams and shouted to the third that there were lights in the sky. The blonde man nodded and immediately climbed onto his vampire ghost and flew up, shouting that compared to the speed of his vampire, they were like turtles. Seeing that the blonde was catching up, the guy frowned and thought that he was too fast. He will not be able to escape, maybe he will still summon a ghost. The white-haired girl smiled mischievously and said that the guy just looked and began to take something out of his inner pocket. It was a pepper spray, and when she sprayed it in the direction of the blonde and his ghost, they first looked in surprise, and then their eyes began to burn and both screamed in pain. From this they lost control and fell into some building. Thousands of stars shone in the sky. In the same sky, Lin Mo and a white-haired girl were flying on the ghost of the night. The girl happily said that they finally broke away, while the guy was holding onto her waist. The guy looked at this girl with awkwardness, scratched his head and asked about why she saved him. The girl raised her head complacently and said that she just wanted justice. The guy, still smiling awkwardly, said what he was thinking, and then he stopped. The girl looked at him, frowned, stuck out her tongue, and melodiously asked what he was thinking about. Did he really think she had a crush on him? They finally came down, and the guy, scratching his head hard, said that he was wrong. Just wrong. The girl haughtily chuckled and then turned and walked on. The guy, inspecting this place, in the corner of which there was a sofa and a closet to the side, asked about how she lives here, to which the girl said that this was just one of her fortresses, and then throwing her pink slippers sat down and happily said that she had many more similar places. The guy put his hands in his pockets, said that it was no wonder that she had a ghost of herself spray, and also skillfully runs away. Smiling, the guy added that now she is his rescuer, but he doesn't even know her name. The girl smiled broadly and said that her name was Ran, and from the hieroglyph of peace of mind, and ran from the hieroglyph of course. The surprised guy said that the girl's surname was An, like his mother's. The guy thought to himself that this surname is very rare in the country, with the exception of his mother, and Ran is the second person with such a surname that he has met. The girl sadly bowed her head and said that she had her mother's last name. She was seriously ill and was in the hospital all the time. The guy thought thoughtfully that Ran and his sister did not have such a big age difference. She is about 15, 16 years old. Children should not worry about such problems at such a young age. It's a pity that the girl is like that. Smiling, the guy put his hand on the girl's shoulder and reassuringly said that to get out, she began to rob people to cover the costs of treatment. And that's why she doesn't like people, and shouted at Zufeng University and from the security bureau. The girl listened attentively to the guy, jumped up with displeasure and clenching her fist, said that this was not the main reason, and then clenching her teeth to whiteness, said that she hated Gao Longsheng. The guy with interest said that Gao Longsheng is the head of the security bureau. She's got a grudge against him. The girl looked down gloomily and said that Gao Longsheng deliberately got close to her mother in order to find out the details he was interested in. He swore his love to her mother, said that he would turn mountains for her, but when he got his way, he simply abandoned them. Not only did he send people to hurt her mother, but he also handed her ghost over to his daughter. Clasping her hands in displeasure, the girl turned away and said that the ghost doll Gao Shishi originally belonged to her. The guy, looking at the girl who was wearing a blue jacket and short shorts, began to remember Gao Shishi from the TV, and thought that now it is clear why she and Gao Shishi are so similar. It turns out they are stepsisters. The guy folded his hands and looked at the girl, who sat down and said with displeasure that Gao Longsheng goes under a mask all the time. It turns out he took the ghost from his own daughter, but it's like pulling out a bone. Nodding to himself, the guy continued saying that yes, and Gao Shishi is no better, 100%, because she knows about everything, and she walks around happy. The girl shedding tears said that they not only hurt her, but also took her mother. From such news, the guy was overcome with righteous anger and he shouted that they were still bastards. Then he grabbed the girl by the shoulders and added that because of Gao Longsheng, he would not be able to go anywhere now. We can say that he and she are to some extent the same. Clenching his teeth and fists, the guy told the girl not to worry, because he decided to help her take revenge. Both of them will be able to destroy the Gao families. The girl looked at the guy with surprise. After coming to her senses, the girl laughed, covered her mouth with her hand and asked what the guy was talking about. There are too many of them. They are definitely not their rivals. The guy shuddered at this, and the girl, wiping the droplets of tears, added that besides all this, the guy had just offended a guy from Zufeng University. Apparently Lin Mo is asking for trouble. The guy, smiling contentedly, pointed at himself and cheerfully said that he understood everything. Who we are is not so bad for them. Soon he will enter Baiyang University. When he gains strength, he will be able to take revenge on everyone. The girl slapped the guy on the back and said that there was one of her fortresses near Baiyang University. It's an ancient tomb, very spacious and magnificent. She'll show him later. The guy, rubbing his aching back, with droplets of cold sweat on his head, asked about which tomb the girl was talking about, and she smiled mischievously, nodded and said that he would see later. Here the guy imagined a terrible tomb, from which formidable ghosts and bats come out. From this he already turned white, and the girl looked at the doubting guy, spread her hands and condescendingly clicked and asked that he was planning to take revenge with such and such courage. The guy immediately came to himself with a serious look at the girl and asked what she was talking about. He was just amazed at the majesty of her fortress. The girl smiled smugly at this, arrogantly raised her head and said that her gang specializes in recruiting people who were somehow crippled by the Security Bureau service. Ancient tombs, abandoned morgues, warehouses, all these are their fortresses. The guy, listening to all this, raised his thumb and said that it all sounds great. Then the girl looked at the clothes. The girl thought that in any case, despite all her bases, he does not think that her life can be called good. Looking at the worn-out red boots, the guy thought that he thinks that Unran has a hard time. The guy, digging in his bag, said that she saved his life and did not do it in vain. He decided to give her half of the ghost beads. The girl smiled and raised her hands in a gesture of refusal and said that she did not need this. She still did not want to be sympathized with. She's only interested in stolen beads. Handing the bag to the girl, the guy said with displeasure that then she would rob him, and the girl, discontentedly denying, said that she no longer wanted to somehow. Suddenly the package fell to the ground and there appeared a bra that the guy bought for his ghost with a zither. They both looked carefully there, and the guy turned pale, but the girl, seeing what she wasn't worth, flashed red and immediately jumped away from the guy, shouted that he was a pervert. The guy concocted a completely innocent face and shouted that she had misunderstood everything. She should listen to explanations, because he is not like that. He immediately showed his ghost with a zither and giving her a bra shouted that he had bought it for her, all in order to increase loyalty. The girl, still looking suspiciously at the ghost and the guy, squinted with displeasure and said that she should believe him, even though it was certainly strange. The guy began to hold out a wooden box and said that if it wasn't for her, he would already be lying dead in the alley. Even if he hadn't been killed, they would have beaten him half to death for sure. They would have taken not only the beads from him, but also all the money, so she deserved half. The girl clenched her fist and smiled and said that she would take them away, but not just like that. If in the future the guy again falls into the hands of a guy from Zufeng University or a member of the Security Bureau, he can safely turn to her and her group. Banging his fists, the guy said that they had agreed. After a while, the guy looked at the rain that was coming from the sky, as if from a bucket. Suddenly a girl called him and the guy turned cautiously, saw a satisfied girl who bent down and said that it was a pretty heavy downpour now, so the guy would not be able to return. Then why don't they have fun? The guy was perplexed and looked at the girl with a question. And after a while they both sat down on a white sofa and the girl happily showed the game on the phone. Asked the guy if he would dare to fight her to the glory of the dead. The guy asked in surprise that she was also playing. She nodded, but then clenching her fists, furious, shouted that she was playing, of course, but constantly losing. The guy smiled and said that it was easy to change, so he would help. And then he took out his phone himself and both began to enter the game. The guy asked with interest about what her nickname was and leaning over to her, he saw in her phone the nickname of a girl without feelings. Her rank was stubborn bronze, and her frequently used ghost was considered bandit. He seems to have seen it somewhere. At this time, the girl looked at the guy with blood-red eyes and, enraged with swollen veins, asked the guy that he was a golden gun. The girl, all red with anger, grabbed the guy by the collar and asked, shouting, about why he was constantly holding her back. He should answer right away. The guy, all pale, fell down and immediately shouted that he was wrong, and then he immediately asked for forgiveness. The girl screamed furiously for him to taste her fist and began to beat him in the chest. The guy screamed desperately, and when she stopped, he raised 3 fingers up and said that today he would help her get to the gold. Only she should give him a break a little. The girl happily sat down and said that it was great. At this time in the office of the security bureau, a man with greenish hair slammed the table in a rage and shouted, asking how it happened that none of the 20 agents sent had returned. The interlocutor should immediately tell him where they went. The man in the blue jacket and white turtleneck was Gao Longsheng, the head of the security bureau, and the father of Enran and Gao Shishi. A fat man with glasses was standing in front of him, trembling and sweating. He nervously picked up the sheet and said that the whereabouts of all 20 agents had been established. They were on Mount Min. They all disappeared in one day. The same bespectacled man in a standard suit was Sun Dalai, the deputy head of the security bureau, as well as the father of Sun Mo and Sun Lai Lai. Out of rage, Gao Longsheng threw the smoking room towards Sun Dalai, shouting that it was Min Mountain too big. Is it possible to be treated to find their exact location? And how could Sun Dalai only become a deputy with such skills? The bespectacled man dodged a centimeter from the smoking room, which crashed into the wall and broke into fragments. Looking at this, Sun Dalai turned pale all over and immediately rattled off an apology to the head. The bespectacled man turned pale and said that the opponents acted very decisively. All the locators installed on the agents were disabled. They didn't even have time to send a distress signal. The man finally calmed down a little, asked what it meant that they couldn't even send a distress signal, and then, with a gloomy look at his deputy, he asked about what comes out. Their employees are not qualified enough. How could they have eliminated all the employees of the 6th rank of the Ghost Master? Slapping the map, the man shouted that it was necessary to find them. At this time, the door to the office opened and a pretty girl in a work uniform and with brown hair tied in a ponytail told Sun Dalai that he was called to the phone. The man turned purple, said to the secretary to get out. Didn't she see that they were discussing important matters here? Is she really stupid? The girl hesitantly pressed her hands to herself and said that it was a call from his family. His son was hospitalized, and 2 of his contract ghosts were killed. This was done by a high school student, Lin Mo. Hearing this name, both the deputy head of the security bureau, Sun Dalai, and the head of the security bureau, Gao Longsheng, looked at the girl in surprise. Sun Dalai turned pale and said that if the ghost under the contract dies, the carrier will have a hard time. With a tremor in his voice, the bespectacled man added that Sun Mo was a genius who managed to sign a contract with 3 ghosts at once, and now he is an ordinary owner of 1 ghost. Seeing the condition of his colleague, the head of the security bureau took pity on him and told him to go home and deal with his son. But Sun Dalai was completely in despair, saying that it was over. At this time, Gao Longsheng looked at the photo of himself and his daughter, who was holding dolls in her hand and smiling contentedly, said that her daughter was gorgeous. She has the best result in the whole province. At this time, her other daughter, namely Enran, sat on her night ghost and began to say goodbye to old Lin Mo, saying that she should go back and pass the medicine, and they can play another time. The guy nodded to her and wished her a safe journey, and soon the girl flew up with a smile. Looking at Enran flying away, the guy smiled and thought that today is probably the happiest day since he found himself in this world. Some time later, a guy with a suitcase boarded a bus that he drove to Baiyang University. It was the day of admission to it. When the guy got on the bus, a chubby guy immediately waved to him, telling his brother that he was there. And then Puffy laughed and said that he did not think that they would be able to study together. The guy approached a friend, and he looked at his friend with a twinkle in his eyes and smiled and said that Baiyang University is known as the largest in the province. He couldn't wait for them to arrive there. He was so worried that he couldn't even sleep. The guy, looking at such a joyful friend, who by the way was in a white shirt, as always, pretended to smile and nodded. Then he looked away and thought that if Black Pudgy found out what kind of place it was, he didn't think he would be so happy. Rather, Pudgy would run screaming to mommy. Well, anyway, all in good time. While the bus was traveling, time passed, and after a while the chubby man trembled and pointed to a terrible place outside the window, and with a trembling voice said to his brother that this was some kind of terrible place. Why, there were no buildings here, only graves everywhere. The guy scratched his nose thoughtfully and said that this was probably the tomb that Baiyang University had built for teaching students. Then the guy with a serious tone added that the chubby guy thought about it. There is no place for timid students here. Only brave and purposeful students can study at Baiyang University. Surprised, the chubby man raised both thumbs and admiringly said that that's it. Baiyang University is really a wonderful university. Soon, a voice came from the speakers of the bus telling them that the final stop, namely Baiyang University, had arrived. Soon 2 guys got off the bus and found themselves in this gloomy place with suitcases. Behind them was a large sign that indicated exactly where Baiyang University was located. Suddenly, something crashed into the face of the chubby man, and he took it in fright and screamed, and then asked his brother Mo where this Baiyang University was located. The guy fell silent, and the chubby man with a tremor in his voice asked about where they were at all. The guy turned around without saying anything, which made the chubby guy even more nervous and turned pale. He immediately asked Lin Mo to say whatever. The guy himself looked around doubtfully at the phone and pointed in that direction, said that Baiyang University should be located there. Chubby with fright took out his suitcase and looking around, asked about the entrance, where is she? The guy also took the suitcase and began to walk forward and said that everything was fine. They just need to follow the instructions on the map. Then they would definitely get to the hostel. Looking at the uneven road, the chubby man with tears in his eyes said that there was not even a normal road here. The atmosphere in this grave was creepy and it scared the chubby. Suddenly, Puffy's suitcase crashed into something and because of the knock, Puffy jumped back in horror, saying that it was a horror. Lin Mo turned around with interest and looked at the thing that scared his friend so much. It was the coffin of a green ghoul who was a furious ghost. From this, even the guy himself froze in fright, because the green ghoul was a rank higher than all his ghosts. Looking around, the guy thought that besides this ghost, they were surrounded by more than a dozen ghosts of different colors. The chubby man in fright grabbed the suitcase and hiding behind it shouted at his brother, asking what they should do. The guy frowned with displeasure, raised one hand and started looking for Tao with the other and told his friend to stop shaking and just call his contract ghost. The guy himself ordered a ghost with a chainsaw and a ghost with a zither to come out. Puffy also began to bother his tattoo saying that the ghost of the trash can went ahead. A green garbage can appeared in front of the guy with hands, artificial intelligence, legs, and eyes. It was the ghost of the trash can, the ghost of a novice. The guy surrounded his ghosts, told them to be careful because the green ghoul was coming. There was a ghost with a chainsaw in front of the guy, and a ghost with a zither behind. Seeing them, the green ghoul, releasing his green energy, shouted that he would kill everyone. While the guy was seriously looking at the opponent, the chubby guy already began to climb inside his ghost trash can and told brother Mo that they should run away from here. The guy looked in the direction of his friend and at that moment a hand broke out right from under the pudgy man and grabbed him by the leg, which caused him to cry in fright, shouted at the top of his voice that he had been grabbed and that he needed help. The guy stretched out his hand in the direction of his ghost so that he could get it. The green trash can bent down and said that he could not. Looking at this situation, Lin Mo thought that the garbage can ghost's defensive power is fine, but the attack power is 0. Grinning, the guy said that these two are similar. The chubby man found the perfect ghost for himself. Then the guy ordered a ghost with a chainsaw to help a friend. A ghost with a chainsaw with red eyes easily lifted the chubby man by the head, which caused him to look straight into his eyes. A ghost with a chainsaw drooling shouted that fresh meat was in front of him and from this, the chubby man turned pale all over and screamed with bulging eyes. Lin Mo immediately stopped his ghost and said discontentedly that it was impossible to eat. He drooled and bowed his head, asking if it wasn't meat. At this time, 2 more zombies grabbed Puffy's leg, which caused him to scream again in fright, and asked for help. At this time, the sound of a chainsaw rang out and the chubby man with the blue face looked like a ghost with a chainsaw tearing the head of the ghost who grabbed the chubby man by the left leg. Soon the second ghost followed this fate and both heads fell to the ground. Seeing this, the green ghoul releasing tons of energy with bloodlust asked about the fact that these people dared to kill his brother. Seeing this ghoul in ancient Chinese robes, who was emitting an aura of danger, the guy recoiled and said that things were bad. Other zombies began to rise from the ground, and the ghoul himself rushed to Lin Mo shouting that he would kill the guy. A hand with black long claws almost grabbed the guy by the throat, but he recoiled and managed to pronounce the name of the skill ghost with a zither, namely a mantra. A ghost with a zither played her zither and waves of music bound the green ghoul. Jumping away from him, the guy immediately ordered the ghost with a chainsaw to kill this zombie. A ghost with a chainsaw emitting an aura of murder raised his chainsaw and rushed towards the enemy. On the move, he kicked Tom, because of which he threw him away, and then put his foot on the lying green ghoul, and began sawing his head, which caused the ghoul's eyes to pop out of their sockets. The guy, looking at this situation, clenched his teeth and thought that everything was bad, because the ghost with the chainsaw did not activate the bloodlust skill, so the attack power will not be high. Well, a passive skill can still help him, and Lin Mo can rely on the protection of the ghost of the garbage can. Turning around, he saw a chubby guy who was telling the guy to go in his direction. Puffy himself was inside the ghost of a garbage can. After a while, the guy was already inside the trash can with a friend. Puffy, huddled into a ball, panicking, asked about what they should do, how they should be. After all, the green ghoul is much stronger than their ghosts. The guy, coughing from the smell, said that there was garbage to go out here, and then he told a friend that they needed to come up with something. Then he looked out through the gap in the trash can and thought that his opportunity to sign contracts was over. He needs to score about 2,000 points, but there are none. If he had, he could have tried to force a contract with the green ghoul. Looking ahead, the guy realized that things were bad for them, because the green ghoul was about to break free. At this time, the green ghoul grabbed the fervor of the ghost with a chainsaw hand. With an angry face, looked at the ghost with a chainsaw. The actions of the mantra will end in 20 seconds, and the green ghoul has already resisted the ghost with a chainsaw. The ghost with the chainsaw was already covered in sweat from such pressure. Soon the green ghoul pushed the ghost with a chainsaw away, and no matter how hard he tried, he could not move his chainsaw forward. At this time, the other zombies ran towards the ghost of the trash can. While the ghost of the garbage can was almost crying, the zombies clung to him and gnawed as best they could. The hand of one of the zombies after a while made a hole in the ghost of a garbage can and appeared right in front of the guy, and he recoiled from this and told a friend that it looks like his ghost will not withstand such pressure. The chubby man himself started tears and snot and trembled in fear, curled up in a ball and shouting, "What kind of university is this?" He wanted to go home. The guy gritted his teeth and thought that the ghost of the garbage can was a novice ghost, of the lowest rank, so it was very difficult for him. It looks like he has only one way. And when one of the zombies opened the head of the ghost of the garbage can, the zombie's head itself flew off to the side, and the guy asked about who was here. Everyone looked up and saw someone in a black raincoat. Immediately, half of the zombie heads flew off. The aura of the stranger did not hide from the green ghoul either, and he turned with an angry aura and immediately headed for this blonde man with pointed ears. A voice rang out, ordering the headless ghost to attack. Behind the green ghoul, a ghost appeared without a head, but with its face right in the torso. The headless ghost swung at the green ghoul. At this time, a blonde man in a raincoat flew up, and now an explosion was heard from the collision, and a black, red aura flew up like a pillar. When the smoke cleared, everyone witnessed an angry ghost without a head looking at a green ghoul on the ground. When everything calmed down, it became clear that there were two ghosts. A blonde man with pointed ears. He was dressed like a medieval count or duke. It was a vampire ghost, a furious mid-level ghost. The other was a headless ghost, already a furious high-level ghost. At this time, a girl appeared in front of the ghost of the trash can and said that there were two students here. At this time, Lin Mo was coming out of the ghost trash can. A smiling girl with long black hair in a school uniform appeared in front of the guy. Smiling, she welcomed them to Baiyang University. It was Mu Wang King, a third-year student at Baiyang University. The guy happily greeted his sister and said that his name was Lin Mo, and she was just in time. The girl smiled and introduced herself as Mu Wang King, and then the girl asked the guy that the ghost with the chainsaw and the ghost with the zither belonged to him. The guy nodded, and immediately two of his ghosts appeared behind him. The guy immediately recalled them, and they became bunches of energy and became tattoos in the guy's hand. The girl happily said that the guy was amazing. After all, he had held back the green ghoul and so many ghosts for so long. He's the strongest freshman she's ever seen. The guy was embarrassed by such flattery and awkwardly scratching his head, said that she was overpraising him. At this time, a head came out of the ghost of the trash can and asked the guy what was there. Everything ended at the same. The guy smiled and said that the danger was over, so the chubby guy can go out. Puffy immediately drew attention to Mu Wang King and happily smiled and said that there was also a girl here. Smiling happily, Pudgy stretched out his hand in greeting with Mu Wang King and said that his name was Wang Kai, but she could just call him Pudgy. Lin Mo, dissatisfied with his friend's antics, told him to move away and told him not to touch his sister with his dirty clothes. The girl herself was smiling warmly. With a kind smile, she said it was nothing. Weren't they scared just now? The chubby guy, smiling broadly, slapped his chest and said that is it possible that he is already an adult guy? Nothing scares him. Then, smiling, he grabbed his friend and said that if the girl didn't believe him, she could ask him. The guy, mischievously looking at the chubby, grinned and nodded. And then, looking at him, I asked who it was who was crying and saying how he wanted to go home. After all, he calmed down only after the arrival of his sister. Isn't that so? The chubby guy blushed all over from such a betrayal of his friend and grabbed him by the mouth, asking what he was talking about. And a new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. Mu Wang King, hearing this, also laughed and cheerfully told them to follow her into the building. They still have beds to make, and it's not good to be late. After that, the girl looked at her two spirits, namely the headless one and the vampire ghost, and told them to come back. Both became energies and soon turned into a tattoo in the girl's hand. When the two ghosts disappeared, the green ghoul got up and ran back into the forest. The guy looked with interest at the ghost of the ghoul who was fleeing, and then asked his sister why he let him go. The girl smiled and pointed to the area and said that all kinds of ghosts, from small to large, live in such places. Isn't this the best place to test? If she kills them, who will she have to train on later? The guy who heard such an answer was perplexed and pretended to smile and fell silent. Then the guy presented an ordinary training ground in which all the ghosts are under control and in cages, because usually all the sites are very safe. The ghosts are kept in isolation. The students are not in danger, and here in the training ground by Young University is a training ground on which there can be many different ghosts. Squinting, the guy looked at the girl and thought that this is really a unique university. Seeing such a guy's look, the girl smiled and said that they should not worry, because the local ghosts are not particularly strong. They will definitely be able to defeat them easily. Both guys didn't know whether to laugh at them or oppose her, because after taking a couple of steps they came across a green ghoul who almost killed them. And this she calls not particularly strong ghosts. Then the guy looked back and saw a bunch of ghost beads and asked the girl about them. She mercifully let them take everything, and from this both guys were delighted and began to collect ghost beads. Chubby enthusiastically collecting asked Brother Mo how much such a bead was worth, and he, too, collecting, said that the novice ghost beads could be sold for about 10,000 yuan. But there were as many as 160,000 of them. Smiling contentedly, the guy said that it was a paradise with beads. The girl pointed in that direction and told them to go faster after her, because they will be there soon. After a while, in the same forest, Mu Wan King led the two newcomers behind her. Lin Mo followed her, and Chubby, holding onto his brother, followed them. The girl smiled and said that despite the fact that both are on the outskirts, you can walk through the desert area from the young side, then cross the mountain and take the ferry to the city of Ling Ling. This way they will be able to get to the city center. Zufeng University is located nearby. Smiling, the girl opened her hands wide and said that everything was fine at their Baiyang University, too. Every night you can watch the flickering lights from the ghosts, just like the stars in the sky. From such a parallel, the guys were shocked, and Lin Mo thought that now he understood why she was not afraid of anything. Finally, the girl stopped in front of the ominous gate, which was entangled with cobwebs in an evil aura, and propping her waist with her hands, she said that they had come. The guy grinned at this splendor and said, Baiyang University, that he was here. When they passed among people, they came across people through people who were distracted by Mu Wang King, who was a beauty. One guy with two backpacks looked at the smiling girl and said that he thought Baiyang University was some kind of monastic temple. He didn't expect to meet such a beauty here. It was a good thing he was late. The second with a ton of backpacks on his back asked with displeasure about why such a beautiful sister was taking these two, and some kind of curator was taking them. It wasn't fair. Someone else was whining about the description, saying that he was tired and why these two only had one suitcase each. While the guy was hearing all this, he was walking with a non-volatile face, a chubby man, smiling all over his mouth. At this time, one of those poor fellows shouted that he also needed such a sister and immediately received a slap on the head from a tall man who was dressed in an office uniform. The man shouted for the guy to shut up. What kind of claims are these? The man pointing at Lin Mo shouted in rage, saying that how can he compare himself with others, because they are excellent students. That guy passed the rank, a test by 90 points, and this guy at rank D barely scraped 60, so he shouldn't complain. The guy was surprised that he was known. Others, having learned about his rank, began to look at him, which made him feel awkward. After a while, they came to a building that was the dormitory of Baiyang University. The girl gave them the keys and said that their room was 433, and these were the keys to their doors. Military training is tomorrow, so they shouldn't forget to come. The guy smiled and thanked his sister, to which she nodded and left, and at this time the chubby man was thinking that he had some strange feeling. Suddenly the girl stopped and smiled and told them to make sure they closed the doors before going to bed, because ghosts can roam around, which can invade their dreams. The chubby man, looking at Mu Wang King in love, said that if she would become his girlfriend, Grinning, the guy looked at his friend and said to his sister that she probably had a couple, because she still needed to push up. From this, the chubby man became enraged and shouted that he had not asked Lin Mo about it. A new notification popped up in front of the guy, saying that he had received 10 points of destruction. Soon they were already looking for room 433 among these abandoned rooms. While they were walking, the chubby man hiding behind a friend said that it was not cozy here either. And finally they came to room 433, the door of which was in a spider web. There were different sounds outside the door, and therefore the frightened chubby stopped his friend, asking him, scared, what those sounds were. The guy smiled and told him to stop being so scared, because there are ghosts everywhere. The guy opened the door and they froze when they saw some guy who was sharpening a sword right in the middle of the room. This short-haired guy had a scar running through his nose and he had an oppressive aura. Puffy, immediately hiding behind a friend trembling, said that this guy is even scarier than a ghost. Lin Mo asked this brother when he came in that he was sharpening the blade and didn't even turn on the light. He scared them so much. Then the guy turned on this lamp, which lit up the room. While playing with the blade, the scarred guy said that he did not need light to sharpen the blade, and Lin Mo heard this and nodded, saying that if so, then he understands. Seeing that his friend did not come in, the guy asked the chubby guy why he did not come in, and he trembled and said that he had already come in. Lin Mo made a bed on the second floor, and the chubby man began to sort out his suitcase, asking about where the food was. While Lin Mo was doing his job, he introduced himself to the guy with the scar, and then said that they would be neighbors from now on, so he hoped that the guy would take care of them. Still sharpening the blade, the scarred guy introduced himself as AQ. The guy doing his job was thinking that this guy is definitely weird. He either has social phobia or some kind of mental illness from the divine weapon. Suddenly, the bloody eye of the ghost appeared and said that AQ's blade was unusual, and he was scared. The guy heard this with a smile and asked AQ about what kind of unique blade he had, what he does to them. The guy looked indifferently at the blade and said he was shaving with it.